Chapter 964. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. It's people from the Tang sect. Gu Jiao combined what happened today and came up with this guess. A cold light flashed past Mistress Nan's eyes. That's right, it's people from the Tang sect. I managed to get a lot of information out of that person. Only then did I find out that the Tang sect has always been brooding over my departure. Just like Qi Xian, they all think that I secretly comprehended some incredible cultivation method, which allowed me to learn the highest martial arts of the sect. They have always wanted to capture me and bring me back. Gu Jiao didn't ask why Mistress Nan didn't say so earlier. She understood Mistress Nan's personality. She didn't want to cause trouble for them. She looked at Mistress Nan and said seriously, "Mistress Nan, leave the Tang sect to me." Mistress Nan looked at her in shock. "What do you want to do?" Gu Jiao said lightly, "Flatten the Tang sect. The Jianghu sects and the imperial court have always minded their own business. Even Qi Xian left the Tang sect before joining the Han family. Gu Jiao had no intention to make things difficult for the Jianghu sects, but if anyone from the Tang sect dared to bully the Dragon King's temple, then they shouldn't blame the Black Wind Camp's cavalry for trampling on the Tang sect's mountain. Jiao Jiao. Mistress Nan didn't want to trouble Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao looked into her eyes. "Mistress Nan, the Gu family asked me for 20 years to buy off their relationship with Gu Xiaoshan. Gu Xiaoshuan's parents personally received the 2 silver ingots. They were very happy. A useless son could be sold for 20 years. They felt that it was a good deal." Mistress Nan never expected that there was such a terrible truth behind Gu Xiaoshuan's break with the Gu family. "You and Master Lu treat Xiaoshan as your own son. I don't want Xiaoshan to lose his parents who love him so much." Mistress Nan was silent. Gu Jiao continued. "What's more, when Yan was injured, didn't you all come to the Yan kingdom regardless of everything?" Master Nan and Master Lu's kindness to his 2 younger brothers could not be described in a few words. Gu Jiao would not allow anyone to harm Nan Sherngyang. The 2 of them sat for a while longer before Master Lu came over in a hurry. Nan Sherngyang waved at him from the 2nd floor. He looked up and saw his madam first. There was no doubt about it. But who was the young lady opposite madam? He went to the side room. "Are you hurt?" Madam Nan asked. "I didn't. What about you?" Master Lu asked. "I'm fine too. Let's see who's here." Madam Nan smiled at Gu Jiao. "You definitely won't recognize her." Master Lu's gaze fell on Gu Jiao's flawless face. After a long while he stammered, It can't be Jiao Jiao, right?" "Master Lu." Gu Jiao greeted him with a smile. Master Lu staggered and bumped into the wall beside him. So it really was Jiao Jiao? Did she change her face? No, her facial features were no different from before. But without the birthmark, it was as if she had been reborn. "Jiao Jiao's face is better now." Madame Nan did not mention the chastity mark. Master Lu only thought that Gu Jiao's medical skills were superior. He was quite pleased that she cured herself. He did not judge people by their appearance. Gu Jiao did not either. But as an elder, he still did not want those bad looks to fall on Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao asked, "Master Lu, Madame Nan, where do you live now? Is it still the same courtyard as before?" Madame Nan said gently, "We moved to the inner city. We live in Chui Lu Lane." Gu Jiao said happily, "It's in the same direction as the House of Duke. If you don't mind, you can go to the House of Duke for dinner tonight. Jing Kong will be very happy to see you." The 2 of them found it difficult to refuse such kindness. They went to a nearby car shop to rent a carriage, and went to the House of Duke with Gu Jiao. The 3 of them went to the House of Duke first. They did not see little Jing Kong. Instead, they met another familiar figure. He was dressed in white and had a tall figure. His face was handsome and noble. Who else could it be other than Mu Qingchen? When Mu Qingchen heard that the House of Duken had returned to Chengdu, he immediately put down his work and came to visit. He had just come out of the House of Duken and did not expect to meet Gu Jiao at the door. Even Madame Nan had heard that the commander of the Black Wind Cavalry was actually a woman. As a member of the 10 great aristocratic families, How could he not know? Gu Jiao was wearing a green dress with narrow sleeves and a girdle. Her body was light and her waist was slim. The material of the dress was the best soft smoke gauze. When the sun shone on it, it reflected a thin layer of hazy light. This soft smoke gauze was a specialty of the Jin nation. It was a tribute from the Jin nation to the empress. The empress did not keep a single one for herself, and sent them all to the house of Dukan. How did he know about this? It was because he was the one who counted and escorted the tribute from the Jin nation. His gaze finally fell on Gu Jiao's face. Then he was dumbfounded. Madame Nan sensed that the atmosphere was not right. She looked at Gu Jiao and said, "Jiao Jiao, your master Lu and I will first." "Madame Nan." Little Jing Kong's surprised voice suddenly came from the courtyard. Madame Nan looked at Gu Jiao and Mu Qingchen with a smile and said, "Let's go to Jing Kong first. You two have a chat." Then she dragged Master Lu, who wanted to gossip, to meet Jing Kong. Gu Jiao's reaction was calmer than Mu Qingchen's. She tilted her head slightly and greeted Mu Qingchen as usual. "Mu Qingchen." She used her original voice. Mu Qingchen was stunned again. Gu Jiao put her hands behind her back and thought for a while. "Well, long time no see. How are you?" Was this the way to exchange greetings after a long separation? It took Mu Qingchen a full minute to adapt to her identity as a woman, her appearance and her voice. Countless emotions that Gu Jiao could not understand flashed across his eyes. He seemed to be in disbelief or something else. In short, it was very complicated. "Mu Qingchen, what's wrong with you?" Gu Jiao asked. Mu Qingchen's hands under his wide sleeves clenched little by little. He walked slowly toward Gu Jiao and said in a hoarse voice, "I came here today not only to visit Dukan but also to see you." Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows. "See me? What's the matter?" Mu Qingchen looked around. "There are too many people here. Let's talk somewhere else." The people in the public house had been eliminated long ago. Those who were left were all trustworthy. Gu Jiao looked at him strangely. "Okay, wait for me." She went into the courtyard and arranged for Madame Nan and Master Lu to meet Dukan. Then, she went to a secluded pavilion in the public house with Mu Qingchen. Gu Jiao stood in the pavilion and said to him, "You can tell me now." Mu Qingchen hesitated for a moment, and took out a doll from his wide sleeve. It was an extremely terrifying doll. It had a bloody mouth, sharp teeth, blind eyes and bald hair. The memory that Gu Jiao had put aside came back to her. She had made a doll like this in her previous life. "Yinin gave it to me." Mu Qingchen looked into Gu Jiao's eyes and said. Gu Jiao was stunned for a moment. She took the doll and said, "You know. The state preceptor told me." Mu Qingchen clenched his fists and felt bitter. "So you didn't lie to me. You said you would come back. You really came back." Gu Jiao didn't have a complete memory of Jing Yinin. She couldn't remember what Mu Qingchen said. The only thing she was sure of was that Jing Yinin had mastered the secret of time travel. She knew she could come back here. Yinin's health has always been poor. Mu Qingchen said, "The purple grass poison couldn't completely merge with her. Back then, the monarch sent someone to assassinate Yinin. But in fact, the real cause of her death was the purple grass poison." The state preceptor even told Mu Qingchen this. Gu Jiao said, "What else do you know about Jing Yinin? For example, her other identity?" "You?" Mu Qingchen looked at her with a complicated expression. It seemed that she didn't know about the Lord of Shadows. Gu Jiao returned the little doll to him. "Don't you want to take it back?" Mu Qingchen asked. "It's for you," Gu Jiao said. Mu Qingchen held the doll that had accompanied him for more than 10 years. He couldn't calm down the surging emotions in his chest. If. Before he could finish speaking, Gu Jiao took a step forward and gently hugged him. Mu Qingchen froze and widened his eyes in disbelief. Gu Jiao said, "This is for you from Yinin." Mu Qingchen's arms trembled slightly. His eyes reddened unconsciously. He raised his head and forced the tears back to the corners of his eyes. He raised his arms and wanted to hug his Yinin, but his hand stopped in midair, an inch away from her. He was too late. Gu Jiao withdrew her hand and looked at him. She said seriously, "Mu Qingchen, thank you. Thank you for protecting Yinin. Thank you for taking care of Duke." And Mu Qingchen collected his emotions in time and said calmly, I'm done. You should go and see Duke and don't let him wait too long. I should go back. Gu Jiao said. I'll see you off. Mu Qingchen said. No, you go first. Then okay. Gu Jiao said goodbye to him and turned to walk down the pavilion. Looking at the beautiful figure gradually disappearing in the twilight, Mu Qingchen finally couldn't bear it anymore. He turned around and closed his eyes. A drop of hot tears fell down. Digression. You're so early today, where's the hardworking Fang Fangzai? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1044283668. HTML Genius memorized the website address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion mobile reading website. Chapter 965. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found online will be available here. Gu Jiao returned to the main courtyard of Duke An's mansion. The people of the second branch also came, and the courtyard was very lively. They didn't see the touching scene of Madame Nan and little Jing Kong acknowledging each other, but they saw the scene of second Master Jing hugging his eldest brother and crying bitterly. Ooh, eldest brother, why were you gone for so long? I thought you wouldn't come back. For a man to cry like that, it was really a bit unbearable to look at. Second Madame Nan pulled his sleeve and said awkwardly, All right, everyone is here. Look at you. Dukin was also disgusted by his younger brother's tears and snot. Other than the couple of the second branch, there were a few unfamiliar faces in the courtyard. There was a 10-year-old boy and two 6- or 7-year-old girls. The three of them looked like second Master Jing and second Madame Nan, so they must be their children. Gu Jiao didn't see them the last time she came to the Yin Kingdom. Later, she learned from Dukin that second Madame Nan's mother's condition was not good. So she sent the three children to Yu City, which was 100 miles away, to accompany their grandmother. Not long before her wedding with Xiao Heng, second Madame Nan's mother's condition suddenly worsened. Second Master Jing and his wife went to Yu City to visit old Madame Nan, so they missed their wedding. Second Madame Nan didn't want to bother with her husband. She took Madame Nan's hand and said softly, Sorry for making a fool of ourselves. Let's go and admire the flowers. Madame Nan was a person of Jianghu. The noble ladies she met in the past all disdained to associate with people of Jianghu. Second Madame Nan was different from them. She could feel second Madame Nan's sincere acceptance. Jiao Jiao was surrounded by very good people. Madame Nan smiled and agreed. Jiao Jiao, little Jing Kong, who was showing off his height to Master Lu, saw Gu Jiao calmly walking over. For the sake of Jiao Jiao, little Jing Kong, who could give up everything, decisively left Master Lu behind and ran to Gu Jiao. Jiao Jiao, I haven't seen you for a day. I miss you so much. Nonsense, they had clearly seen each other at the courtyard entrance just now. Gu Jiao patted his little head. In the past, she could touch it just by stretching out her arm. Now she had to lift it up. Gu Jiao's arrival saved Guogong from the fire and water. Finally, he didn't have to face his snotty brother anymore. Second Master Jing wanted to cry again. It would be best if he cried until his eldest brother wouldn't dare to abandon him in the future. But when his gaze landed on Gu Jiao, his crying stopped abruptly. Coming out of the Duke An's residence, Gu Jiao looked up at the crescent moon in the sky. Aheng said that he would come to pick her up. Why didn't he come? Did something happen? Gu Jiao guessed correctly. Something did happen. Shang Guanyin needed to be operated on today to remove the screws. Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng went to the state teacher's hall. The children were left in the imperial palace to be taken care of by Wu Xixi and the wet nurses. Longyi wasn't there because Longyi didn't stay in Chengdu instead. He went to Dark Knight Island with Chong Kuan and his son. The imperial palace of De Yen was heavily guarded, so no bad people could sneak in. Before Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng arrived in Yen country, the twins lived peacefully like this. Therefore, no one felt that there was anything wrong with this arrangement. The problem was with a beauty in the imperial harem. This person's surname was Zhao. She was a beauty offered by the Dong family, one of the 10 great families. After Shangguan Yen ascended the throne, the power of the great families was reshuffled. The Nangong family and the Han family were completely removed. The remaining 9 great families also suffered great losses. In order to consolidate their power, the great families followed Jin country's example and offered beauties to the imperial palace. Among them, there was one named Zhao Yu. Zhao Yu was like his name. His face was delicate like jade, and his figure was tall and slightly thin. He belonged to the category of a weak willow in the wind. At dusk, when he was strolling in the imperial garden, he happened to see the twins being carried out by the wet nurse. Shangguan Yen had already announced to the public that the 2 were imperial grandsons. However, there was a secret rumor in the imperial palace. That was that imperial tutor Yi had used a secret technique from the state teacher's hall to give birth to a dragon for Shangguan Yen. In order to keep the secret, they announced to the public that they were the second prince's flesh and blood. There was no second prince before. How come when the twins came, the second prince popped out? Since they were the second prince's flesh and blood, why didn't they bring the second prince into the palace? The twins had been here for 2 months before the second prince and his wife arrived late. Don't tell me that the 2 children can come to the palace by themselves. Shangguan Yen must have spent 2 months to find a second prince from the people. The more Zhao Yu thought about it, the more he felt that he was too smart. He saw through everything that others did not see through. His Majesty gave all his love to the twins, and did not even look at the beauties in the imperial harem. Only when the twins were gone would His Majesty notice the beauties in the imperial harem. Anger rose from the heart, and evil grew from the side. Zhao Yu, who usually did not dare to speak loudly for fear of offending people, was overwhelmed by jealousy at this moment, and fell into a trance. He walked towards the twins. He was popular in the imperial harem, and the wet nurses also knew him. He smiled and went to greet the twins. No one knew that he actually knew a little about medicine. He knew that the palace was dangerous. In order to protect himself, he carried a self-defense poison all year round. That kind of poison was colorless and tasteless. After swallowing or inhaling it, nothing strange would happen for 3 days. It would not start to be toxic until the 4th day. Generally, when poisoned, they would only check what they ate and touched that day. They would never check the contact 3 days ago. This method was very safe. The young prince and the young princess are so cute, he said with a smile. The 2 wet nurses had already put the twins back in the cradle. Looking at the twins, it was hard for them not to agree with Beauty Zhao's words. The 2 little masters were really the most beautiful babies they had ever seen. The weather is very hot. Zhao Yu opened the folding fan and fanned himself first. Then, when no one was paying attention, he sprinkled the powder on the folding fan. He turned around and saw the twins looking at him with their eyes wide open. His eyebrows twitched. He suddenly felt guilty as if he had been caught in the act. Soon he calmed down. No, it was just 2 babies. So what if they saw? Could they understand, or could they speak? Zhao Yu held the folding fan and walked towards the twins' cradle step by step. The twins looked at him for 3 seconds. Suddenly, they clenched their fists in tacit understanding and cried loudly. Oh, what's wrong with the young princess and the young prince? The older wet nurse was the first to speak. Everyone surrounded them, wanting to see what was wrong with the little masters. Zhao Yu was suddenly blocked outside. Now he couldn't fan them no matter how hard he tried. However, there was always a way out. He inadvertently found the perfect opportunity to commit a crime. The cradle was placed in the pavilion. The floor was hard and there were steps below. As long as he tripped the wet nurse in front of him, she would fall on the cradle and throw the twins out. The children's heads were heavy. If they fell, they would definitely hit their heads on the ground. If he was lucky enough, they might even roll down the steps. This would undoubtedly kill them. He decisively stretched out his foot. The wet nurse really didn't see it. She tripped on the spot and toppled the cradle. Ah, little master. She cried out involuntarily. Zhao Yu raised the corners of his lips proudly. But just as he was about to watch the two children fall to their deaths, something unexpected happened. The moment the two children hit the ground, they disappeared with a whoosh. Zhao Yu looked as if he had seen a ghost. His soul flew out and he fell on his butt to the ground. In the eastern suburbs of the imperial city, in a deserted and abandoned alley, Liao Chun, who had been chased for 3 days and 3 nights, finally couldn't take it anymore. He stopped and decided to fight to the death with the other party. He was dressed in a gray monk's robe and stood against the wind under the moonlight. His wide sleeves and robe fluttered in the night wind. He was clearly a monk, but he had an excessively delicate face and a pair of seductive peach blossom eyes. It was as if he was drunk with the nectar of a peach forest. Whoever saw this face wouldn't say a word. Where did this evil monk come from? However, the mole under his right eye gave him a sense of loneliness and mystery. The corners of his lips curled up. He sneered and said, "Cow nose, I've tolerated you for a long time. You don't really think I can't beat you, do you?" Taoist Qingfeng was dressed in a blue Taoist robe. His black hair was tied up with a wooden hairpin. He had the air of an immortal. He said coldly, "I didn't ask you to be merciful." Liao Chen flicked his sleeves lightly and said with a smile, "I just stole your clothes and caused you to be watched by others under the moonlight. If worse comes to worst, I'll show you and you can come back." Taoist Qingfeng's eyes were cold. Shameless. He attacked Liao Chen with a killer move. Liao Chen narrowed his eyes. Is this stupid cow nose for real? Cow nose has improved a lot this year. He tapped his toes and flew into the air. The monk's robe couldn't contain his inner strength. His powerful aura overflowed, almost forming a terrifying phoenix. Cow nose, it's time for you to see how powerful I am. Don't blame me for not reminding you. Once the merciful palm is used, it won't stop until you die. Take this. As soon as he finished speaking, he charged toward Taoist Master Qingfeng. Wah! A small and childish voice suddenly sounded behind him. His body stiffened and his breath stagnated. With a scream, he fell from the sky. Along with him, there was also a little baby crying for milk. He reached out and caught him. Taoist Qingfeng wanted to take the opportunity to stomp him to death, but at the same time, another baby fell from the sky and hit Taoist Qingfeng. Saving people was an instinct, not to mention such a small child. Taoist Qingfeng caught the little guy in time. The two of them didn't understand what had happened. The next second, a small medicine box fell from the sky. No one caught it. It fell to the ground alone. A cold wind blew, and the medicine box was as quiet as a chicken. Taoist Qingfeng and Liao Chen looked at the baby in their arms and were both stunned. Digression. I woke up and saw so many monthly votes. Thank you, everyone. I'm the diligent Fong Fongzai. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_826/1044258080. HTML Genius memorized the website's address. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 966. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found online are all available here. After a moment of shock, the two of them raised their heads at the same time. They first looked up at the sky, then looked around. Because Taoist Qingfeng had come here with the intention of killing Liao Chen, he didn't want to hurt the innocent. He had followed Liao Chen all the way out of the inner city and into this deserted area. It wasn't that there was no one within a 10-mile radius, but there were very few people here. Where did the child come from? Taoist Qingfeng asked in confusion. Liao Chen looked up at the bright moon. A trace of confusion flashed through his charming peach blossom eyes. He pointed at the boundless sky. It seems like it fell from the sky. How is that possible? Taoist Qingfeng said indifferently. No knife in the world could kill a child. He stood up with the child in his arms. What are you doing? Liao Chen asked him. He looked around cautiously. Someone must have been here just now. After saying this, he ignored Liao Chen and planned to look around with the child in his arms. However, he was stopped by Liao Chen. Bullnose. Liao Chen raised his eyebrows and glanced at the way he held the child. That's not how you hold a child. Taoist Qingfeng looked at the way he held the child. He really didn't understand what had gone wrong. Liao Chen complained. Are you holding a book? Who holds a child with 2 arms? Xiao Tsung's little face looked like it had nothing to live for. It seemed to be expressing its dissatisfaction. He looked like an immortal, but how could he be so bad at holding a child? Taoist Qingfeng refused to accept Xiao Tsung's look of disdain, but he still asked Liao Chen, then how should I hold it? Liao Chen looked at him incredulously and sighed. Taoist, oh Taoist, how did you grow up? He was face-blind and had no sense of direction. He didn't even know how to hold a child. He clicked his tongue and stood up calmly in the face of Taoist Qingfeng's strong murderous aura. He demonstrated. Look carefully. Such a small child should be held horizontally. His arms were long and his palms were big, so he could hold Xiaoyan firmly with just one hand. Xiaoyan lay in his arms, leaning against his firm and warm chest. Hearing the strong heartbeat that was similar to her father's, she felt a sense of security that she did not reject. Wow. Xiaoyan smiled at Liao Chen. Liao Chen raised his eyebrows proudly. He looked at Xiaoyan and then at Taoist Qingfeng. See? When you hug him comfortably, the child will smile at you. Taoist Qingfeng lacked experience in raising a child. He only managed to learn Dust's hug after observing for a while. Why isn't he smiling? Taoist Master Qingfeng frowned as he looked at the aloof Xiaokong. Maybe he doesn't like you? Liao Chen said with a faint smile. It didn't matter whether he liked her or not, but this time, it was Liao Chen who said it. Still want to fight? Liao Chen asked with a smile. In terms of martial arts, Liao Chen and Marquis Xianping could compete. Taoist Master Qingfeng gave him a cold stare, then turned to look for the mysterious person who brought the children here. However, even after searching through the attachments, he still couldn't find a single unfamiliar figure. Liao Chen didn't waste his time. He sat in place and played with the little guy in his arms. The little guy laughed when he was teased. It was very interesting. He wasn't surprised to see Taoist Master Qingfeng come back empty-handed. If the children didn't fall from the sky and someone really did throw them to them, then no matter what the other party's purpose was, they couldn't find them when they came, so they couldn't find them when they left. Liao Chen looked at the small medicine box on the ground and said, instead of looking for someone, why don't you take a look at this box? It seems to have fallen with the children. Taoist Master Qingfeng knelt down on one knee. The moonlight at the end of the month was too dim, so he took out a lighter. Liao Chen watched him blow the lighter over the children's heads and frowned. Hey, be careful. Don't burn the children. Taoist Master Qingfeng paused. Oh. He turned his head and blew the lighter in another direction. Xiao Tsung's little body was trembling. He also seemed to feel that this man was too dangerous. Forget it. Let me do it. Liao Chen stood up and walked over, taking the lighter from his hand. He had raised Jing Kong before. A Jing Kong was worth 10 children, so he was the father of 10 children. Holding the children and holding the lighter didn't conflict at all. Under the light of the fire, the two saw the appearance of the small medicine box. It's just an ordinary box, Taoist Master Qingfeng said. This wasn't like the secret room in the Grand Preceptor Hall, which was spotless. The small medicine box was smashed into the dust and became dirty. Liao Chen and sure you didn't recognize it as Gu Jiao's box. Open it and see, Liao Chen said. Taoist Master Qingfeng opened the box with his other hand. Something incredible happened. It was like a fake box. He couldn't open it at all. Even if he used his internal energy, it was still the same. Liao Chen handed the lighter to Taoist Master Qingfeng. Take it. I'll try. Taoist Master Qingfeng expressed his dissatisfaction. Do you think you're better than me? Liao Chen chuckled. It's not what I think. It's the truth. Then Liaochen was slapped in the face. Slap. He snorted. Stupid box. Taoist Master Qingfeng said. Now we don't have a clue. Liaochen carefully observed the faces of the two children and muttered. Don't you think they look familiar? Huh. Taoist Master Qingfeng couldn't tell. Forget it. It's useless to ask you, Liaochen said. Let's find an inn first. There are a lot of mosquitoes at night. If you don't rest, they'll need a quiet place to sleep. How about we report this to the authorities? Taoist Master Qingfeng suggested. Liaochen sighed. The yamen is far from here. Besides, there's no one to take care of such young children. Taoist Master Qingfeng didn't speak. Liaochen said, if you don't want to go to the inn, you can give the children to me. I can handle it alone. Taoist Master Qingfeng hit the nail on the head. You want to take the opportunity to slip away again. The last time he left him in Chengdu, he searched for him for months. Then he left him in Zhao Kingdom, and he searched for him for months again. He wouldn't fall for his trick this time. Liaochen waved his hand. As you wish. Then he walked forward with Xiao Yin in his arms. As he walked, he lowered his head to tease Xiao Yin. Xiao Yin giggled at his teasing. Taoist Master Qingfeng frowned and looked down at the child in his arms. Why aren't you laughing? He asked in confusion. Take the box, he said, looking at Liaochen's back. Maybe we'll find some new clues later. Liaochen had no choice but to return and pick up the medicine box. They came to the main street. This was the outer city. Although it wasn't as prosperous as the inner city, it was still quite lively. A handsome monk and a sage-like Taoist priest were carrying a pair of children. They walked side by side in the endless stream of people, attracting the attention of countless people. The monk and the Taoist master were family? And they had 2 children? What kind of earth-shattering story was this? Liaochen didn't care what others thought of him, but that person didn't. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been hunted down for years just because he was watched once. Liaochen turned his head and glanced at the Taoist master, who was pretending to be calm. He held back his laughter and entered an inn. He looked at the Taoist master who followed him. 2 rooms. Taoist Master Qingfeng said coldly. Don't even think about it. Liaochen said to the innkeeper, 1 room. The innkeeper stared blankly at the 2 and the children in their arms. After a while he came back to his senses. Ah, the best room. We have it, we have it. He called a waiter and took the 2 to the best room in the sky room. After Liaochen entered the room, he first put the dusty medicine box on the table. Then he gently placed the child in his arms on the soft bed. After that, he walked out of the door. Where are you going? Taoist Master Qingfeng asked coldly. Liaochen turned his head and looked at the 2 children. I'm going to get them something to eat. Don't worry, I won't run away. Taoist Master Qingfeng said. You have a criminal record and don't have a good reputation. I don't trust you. Liaochen said. Then why don't you go? Taoist Master Qingfeng said reasonably. If I leave, you'll still run away. Liaochen put his hand to his forehead. Then what should I do? Taoist Master Qingfeng said seriously. Give me your shadow token. Hiss, Liaochen gasped. The shadow token was the most precious thing he had. He couldn't give it to others so easily. But if he didn't give it to him, this guy was too difficult to deal with. Fine, fine. Here you go. Liaochen took out the shadow token and threw it to the man. The man caught it easily. Okay, you can go now. Liaochen shook his head and went downstairs to the kitchen to find something to eat. The 2 children looked about 5 months old and could eat some fine rice paste. He went to the kitchen and had the kitchen cook 2 small bowls of rice paste. He also ordered a few delicate and delicious dishes and asked the waiter to send them to the best room. He carried the rice paste upstairs on a tray. When he reached the door, he bumped into Xian Yuanqi, who was coming from the end of the corridor. The father and son were both shocked. Father? Zheng. Xian Yuanqi was out of the city on business. He had just secretly met with an important person in the inn. He didn't expect to see his son here, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Zheng, or why are you here? He asked strangely. His eyes fell on the tray. What is it? Before Liaochen could answer, the waiter came with a bucket of hot water. He said to Liaochen, "Sir, the hot water you and the other guest asked for, should I send it to your room now?" Xian Yuanqi's body shook. "You got a room with someone?" Liaochen slapped his forehead. "Don't misunderstand. It's a Taoist priest." Xian Yuanqi shook again. "You got a room with a Taoist priest?" Liaochen motioned for him to look at the 2 bowls of rice paste on his tray. He said helplessly, "It's because of the children." Xian Yuanqi shuddered. "You guys even have a child?" "Father." Liaochen was speechless. "It's not what you think." As soon as he said that, Taoist Qingfeng walked out with the shadow token. Xian Yuanqi didn't look at his face, but he saw the token first. He instantly felt like he was struck by lightning. He roared, "You gave the family heirloom to him?" The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428226/1044093993. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion mobile reading website. Chapter 967. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that can't be found online are available here. Xian Yuanqi was so shocked that he couldn't even speak properly. As the symbol of the Lord of Shadows, the shadow token had always been more precious than life. With the shadow token, the shadow division could continue to be passed down. This was also why when Xian Yuanqi was chased by Shi Tian, he must pass the shadow token to Xian Yuanzheng, who was only 8 years old. In Xian Yuanqi's heart, what was it if not a family heirloom? Such a precious thing could never be taken away from him. Taoist Qingfeng also saw its importance, so he asked Liaochen to keep it with him. He didn't know what had happened, but he heard that Liaochen seemed to be in trouble, so he came out to take a look. He must kill Liaochen, but others couldn't touch him. He wanted him to die in his own hands. Then he saw Xian Yuanqi. Xian Yuanqi had already seen the shadow token. He was shocked, very shocked. He also wanted to know who was so powerful that he could steal his son's soul. He looked up. Oh, it's a male Taoist. Taoist Qingfeng? They fought together at the border. Although they weren't familiar with each other, they had at least met several times. How could he not know Taoist Qingfeng, who was brave and good at fighting and fought side by side with his son? He had also sided with Shangguan Yin that the younger generation would surpass them in time. His heart seemed to have been shocked by 100,000 volts of electricity, and he couldn't live anymore. He looked at his unfilial son bitterly and said, "Is this the reason why you said you wanted Jingkong to carry on the family line?" Liaochen was dumbfounded. "Father, I've told you so much. Why do you only remember this one sentence? I said I don't want to get married. I want to be free and unfettered. I want to be a monk who can travel anywhere in the world." Sigh. He couldn't clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. Xian Yuanqi looked at Taoist Qingfeng with a complicated expression. "When did you two get together?" Taoist Qingfeng only heard the part about the family heirloom. He thought for a while and said honestly, "He has been hiding from me, so I found him. In order to prevent him from escaping, I asked him to leave the shadow token with me. Since it's a family heirloom, I'll return it to the Grand Marshal." Xian Yuanqi was not in a hurry to take the shadow token back. Instead, he turned his head and glared at his son. He gritted his teeth and whispered, "You're still hiding from her? Scumbag." Taoist Qingfeng didn't understand the misunderstanding between the father and son. He said seriously, "Grand Marshal, I have a personal grudge against him. Since you saw it today, I might as well tell you the truth. His life is mine." Xian Yuanqi was dumbfounded. Was his daughter-in-law's love so deep that she hated him so much? No. What daughter-in-law? He was a man. Taoist Qingfeng continued. I chased him from the Yan kingdom to the Zhao kingdom, then from the Zhao kingdom to here. It took me a lot of effort to catch him. Even if the Grand Marshal tried to stop me, I could only offend him. He chased them all the way to Zhao country. Could it be that the daughter-in-law that Qing mentioned was really Qingfeng Taoist? Was it really done? Xian Yuanqi felt as if his chest had been pierced by 10,000 arrows. He staggered and nearly fell to the ground, just as he didn't know what he should do with this young couple. Xiao Yan began to cry inside the room. You adults are so slow. This baby is hungry. Hearing the child's cries, Xian Yuanqi remembered that his son had said that they had a child. He trembled and looked at the two people at the door. With an indescribable expression, he asked, You two, who exactly gave birth to it? Liao Chen, Taoist Qingfeng. Xian Yuanqi had followed the Master of Shadows for many years. He was more familiar with the medicine box than Liao Chen. Thus, he recognized it at a glance. He then looked at the boy phoenix twins of little Jiao Jiao and little Aheng. He more or less understood their identities. Hearing that they had descended from the sky together with the box, he became even more certain of his guess. He said to the two, I will bring the child back. This matter, rot in your stomachs. You are not allowed to ask about anything else. I have no objections. Liao Chen said and glanced at Taoist Qingfeng. Taoist Qingfeng said, We will obey the Grand Marshal's orders. Xian Yuanqi had someone hire a carriage. Holding the boy phoenix twins, he sat in the carriage and brought the medicine box along. I'm leaving, he said. Liao Chen took this opportunity to slip away. Father, I will go back with you. Xian Yuanqi kicked his son off the carriage, and then he left in the carriage. Liao Chen, who was forced to stay in Taoist Qingfeng's hands. After the twins disappeared into thin air, the palace maids immediately reported to Wu Xixi. Wu Xixi went to the scene and interrogated everyone in the pavilion. Then he rushed to the Grand Preceptor's hall without stopping. But because the medicine box was not there, the path to the operating room was closed. Yi Qing opened the door and saw an empty secret room. After Gu Jiaojiao returned to the imperial palace, she heard the news and immediately came to Imperial Tutor's hall. Since the medicine box was not there, the boy phoenix twins should have been teleported somewhere. Where did they go? Yi Qing asked. Gu Jiaojiao analyzed. From the current situation I know, the medicine box usually only teleports to nearby coordinates. There are two fixed coordinates. One is the operating room of Imperial Tutor's hall, and the other should be Dark Knight Island. There are also two moving coordinates. One is me, the other is the former godfather, and now there may be boy phoenix twins. Yi Qing thoughtfully said. In other words, it will either teleport to your side or go to Dark Knight Island. Gu Jiaojia thought. No. It was known that the medicine box needed energy to tear space, so there was another possibility. It didn't have enough energy and randomly dropped halfway. Yi Qing heard her thoughts. When Gu Jiaojiao and Yi Qing planned to take the people of Imperial Tutor's hall to find the boy phoenix twins, Xian Yuanqi rushed over with one baby in each hand. Seeing that the two little fellows were safe and sound, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Grand Marshal. Yi Qing and Xian Yuanqi greeted. Xian Yuanqi nodded. State Preceptor Yi. Yi Qing. Give me one of the children. Xian Yuanqi. I won't give it to you, come and grab it. Gu Jiaojiao took the small gray medicine box from the coachman. Wu Xixi had already found out that it was Zhao Yu who had evil intentions and wanted to harm the boy phoenix twins. For the sake of saving the boy phoenix twins once, Gu Jiaojiao suppressed the impulse to chop it into firewood. Gu Jiaojiao took the small medicine box to the secret room. After connecting it to the operating room, several people went in to visit Shangguan Yan. Shangguan Yan fell asleep. Xiaoheng got up and looked at everyone. He bowed to Xian Yuanqi. Granduncle is also here. Xian Yuanqi nodded, holding the boy phoenix twins in his arms. Even their father won't give it to them. Alas, I can't grab it, I can't grab it. Xiaoheng asked Gu Jiaojiao and Yi Qing. What happened just now? The door of the operating room suddenly couldn't be pushed open. If the door couldn't be pushed open, it meant that the passage was closed. This was the case when Gu Changqing was hiding here to recuperate. Gu Jiaojiao told Xiao Heng about the Boy Phoenix twins' half-day tour in the capital, and Xian Yuanqi added the information of the two on the road in time. Only then did they know that the Boy Phoenix twins fell into the hands of Liaochen and Qingfeng Taoist. Gu Jiaojiao curled her lips and murmured, "You really know how to pick people." When the energy was exhausted, he located a familiar scent nearby. Did he become a spirit? The Boy Phoenix twins were safe and sound because they were lucky. If they were ordinary children, they would have been killed by Zhao Yu. Thinking of this, Xiao Heng's eyes became cold. Mother was worried that there was no chance to touch the Dong family. Zhao Yu came to the door and really handed a good knife. That night, Xiao Heng personally went to the dungeon of the palace to interrogate Zhao Yu. Zhao Yu couldn't withstand the torture at all. As soon as he was beaten, he confessed and cried loudly that he was instigated by the Dong family. Conspiring to murder the royal family and conspiring to rebel was punishable by beheading, not to mention that the target was the most beloved grandson of Her Majesty the Empress. "I'm innocent, Your Majesty." Master Dong knelt in the majestic and solemn throne room, full of grievances and crying bitterly. Shang Guanyan said with a strong aura, "Take Zhao Yu to the throne room." Zhao Yu was escorted by the imperial guards and pointed at Master Dong. "Master Dong, why do you still refuse to admit it? At that time, it was you who wanted me to enter the palace, to wait for an opportunity to murder His Majesty. Because I wasn't favored and couldn't get close to His Majesty. You set your sights on the young royal princess and the young royal prince. You said to kill them, to make His Majesty panic. And then you thought of a way to poison His Majesty, to make it look like His Majesty was depressed and had died without any illness." Master Dong said angrily, "Nonsense." Zhao Yu said angrily, "You know very well whether I'm talking nonsense or not. You blackmailed me with my family. Let me lay my hands on two babies in swaddling clothes. Master Dong, you're so vicious." You. Master Dong was so angry that he stood up and rushed to Zhao Yu. He pulled out the sword of the imperial guard beside him. Xian Yuanqi sent him flying with a palm strike. He didn't even have the strength to fight back and fell heavily on the cold floor, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Shang Guanyan punched the armrest of the dragon throne and said coldly, "Drawing the sword in the throne room is an additional crime. Guards, drag him away for Zhan. Wait for his punishment." Master Dong was not a kind person. When he was looking for the young commandery princess in the forest, he killed the young commandery princess and Gu Jiao. Shang Guanyan had long wanted to take his life. The imperial guards mercilessly dragged Master Dong, whose dantian was shattered by Xian Yuanqi. Behind him, he left behind a shocking trail of blood. In the imperial court, the officials kept quiet out of fear. They understood that the days of the Dong family were over. If the destruction of the Han family and the Nangong family was due to rebellion, then the end of the Dong family was the first guillotine that Her Majesty the Empress took the initiative to drop on the major families. Her Majesty the Empress's crackdown on the aristocratic families had officially begun. After the imperial court, Xian Yuanqi stopped Shang Guanyan. "Your Majesty." "Uncle, what's the matter?" Shang Guanyan's tone was less fierce in the imperial court and more intimate as a junior. Xian Yuanqi looked at her solemnly. "Has the action against the aristocratic families begun?" Shang Guanyan nodded. When the Xian Yuan family was harmed, none of the 10 major families were clean. Xian Yuanqi said, "The foundation of the country can't be shaken." Shang Guanyan said, "I understand, I won't be ruthless. Some families will make up for their mistakes. I will deal with them according to their merits. For example, the Su family. Originally, she wanted to uproot it, but Mu Qingchen was loyal to the country and had made great contributions at the border. For his sake, she would keep the Su family, but the condition was that the power of the Su family must be handed over to Mu Qingchen. In addition, there was the Wang family. Wang Su was loyal and was also a useful person. Xian Yuanqi hesitated. "That," Shang Guanyan smiled. "Uncle, if you have something to say, just say it." "Feng family." Xian Yuanqi said. "Can you save the Feng family?" "Feng family?" Shang Guanyan nodded thoughtfully. Feng Wuming also made a lot of contributions in the war with Jin country. I will remember these contributions to the Feng family. The elders of the Feng family had passed away, leaving only 2 sons. When the Xianyuan family was in trouble, the 2 sons were still young and didn't participate in the crimes of their fathers. She said, I won't touch Feng Wuming and Feng Wuxiu, but the Feng family's property. I will take it back. After you take it back? Xianyuan Qi asked. Return it to uncle. Sheng Guanyin said matter-of-factly. The things that were divided from the Xianyuan family naturally had to be returned to the original owner. Xianyuan Qi calmly said, Oh, then no need. Sheng Guanyin looked at her uncle strangely. What do you mean no need? Xianyuan Qi explained. You return it to me and I still have to send it over. Sheng Guanyin was confused. What do you mean send it back and forth? Why was she getting more and more confused? Xianyuan Qi straightened his back and proudly said, Betrothal gift. Sheng Guanyin. Digression. I ate 8 creamy yellow quicksand Zilongbeo in the morning, and I'm already on the road to getting fat in the autumn. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/10440364. HTML Genius remembers this site's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile version reading website. Chapter 968. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. The twins were frightened when they left the palace. Sheng Guanyin let the young couple stay in the palace and don't walk around. They should accompany the children in peace. In the cradle of Fenglin Palace, Gu Jiao looked at the pair of little guys who were more excited than birds. She deeply wondered where she could see that they were frightened. He was clearly acting as if nothing had happened, all right? I'm going to the barracks. Gu Jiao said. The 2 little guys pouted for a second. Don't cry. Gu Jiao said lightly. The 2 little guys felt wronged and held back their cries. Wu Cixi, who was waiting on the side, was distressed. The little master was only 5 months old. Did the mother have to be so cruel? Didn't she see that the 2 of them were still in shock and needed their mother's comfort? It would be strange if they needed it. They were just pretending to be pitiful. How could Gu Jiao not understand her own flesh and blood? It seems that in these 2 months, the 2 little guys learned a lot of tricks from the palace. Gu Jiao decisively went to the Black Wind Camp. When Gu Jiao returned to Zhao country to get married, the Black Wind Camp was accompanied by 5,000 soldiers. Wen Rinchong and Zhao Dingfeng were there. They were the first to know that Gu Jiao was a girl. They also saw Gu Jiao's real face. But the rest of the people didn't see it. Among them was Li Shen. When Li Shen returned after winning the war, he immediately went to see his old mother. Later, when Gu Jiao returned to Zhao country, he was also qualified to accompany her. But in order to take care of his mother, he stayed in Xingdu. Gu Jiao had just arrived at the entrance of the barracks when Li Shen came out on horseback. Gu Jiao was dressed as a woman today. She was wearing a long blue dress with a simple spiral hairstyle. The hairband and sleeves danced in the wind in the morning light. Her temperament was cold and unworldly. The barracks was not a place where women could come. Even if they came, they must dismount. Just as Li Shen was about to sternly stop the other party, he unexpectedly saw the other party's face. That was an indescribable beauty. It carried the spirit of a young lady, but it didn't lose the heroic spirit of a youth. It was a beauty that stood out from the masses. Li Shen, who had never judged a book by its cover, suddenly stuttered. The soldiers guarding the camp were also shocked. Which family did she come from? Did a celestial being descend to the mortal world? How did he end up in their barracks? Li Shen. Gu Jiao greeted him from the back of Black Wind King's horse. You know me? Li Shun had never heard Gu Jiao's feminine voice before. He stared at Gu Jiao in a daze. It was rude of him to stare at a woman's face like that, but his woman's beauty was so stunning that he had forgotten his manners. Gu Jiao reverted to his youthful voice. It's me. Li Shun's body trembled, and he fell from the horse's back. He fell flat on his face. For such a fairy-like girl to suddenly have a youthful voice, it was really frightening, all right? However, why did that voice sound so familiar? He quickly raised his head and looked towards Gu Jiao's direction. This time he wasn't looking at Gu Jiao's face but Gu Jiao's horse. Black Wind King. His expression changed and his gaze moved up again, landing on that flawless face. You are the young commander? The guards at the entrance were all shocked. This fairy-like girl was the young commander of their Black Wind camp who killed enemies like flies. The news that the young commander was a girl had already spread throughout the camp. It was said that the birthmark on her face had also been cured, but when they saw it with their own eyes, it was still too shocking. The ugly and cute young commander. How did she suddenly turn into a fairy-like girl? Gu Jiao's arrival caused a stir in the Black Wind camp. Not to mention the people who were shocked. Even the horses ran over to look at Gu Jiao. Then Gu Jiao found that the camp was much quieter today. Everyone didn't walk so boldly, and their voices weren't so loud. It rained last night, so it wasn't hot this morning, but everyone's cheeks were red. Gu Jiao sat on the horse and tilted her head. Oh. Gu Jiao came to the camp for 2 reasons. 1, to see the soldiers who had risked their lives with her. 2, to prepare for the upcoming attack on the Tang sect. Then something strange happened. She only needed 3,000 people, and she only asked the commanders to pick 3,000 people. But when she came out of her tent, she was surprised to find that all 50,000 people were on the training field. What are you doing? She asked in confusion. The new commander of the left, Zhao Dingfeng, coughed and said, the 3rd Battalion of the Charge requests to go to war. Wen Rencheng, who was also promoted, calmed down and said seriously, the 2nd Battalion of the Vanguard requests to go to war. It was just to attack a hidden sect. Wasn't 50,000 people too much? Gu Jiao blinked and asked, you all want to attack the Tang sect? Yes. Everyone straightened their backs and said in unison. Their morale was shocking. Gu Jiao said, okay, since you all want to go, then go. You can also suppress the bandits along the way. I heard that bandits are rampant in that area. It's good to do something for the people. Cheng Fugui was promoted. He was the Hui general of the Black Wind camp. He had the highest rank under Gu Jiao and Xin Yuanqi. He asked righteously, young commander, when are we leaving? Gu Jiao said, we have to ask the Grand Marshal about the exact time. Cheng Fugui was stunned. Why do we have to ask the Grand Marshal? Young commander, aren't you going? Gu Jiao said seriously, I'm not going. I have something else to do. I have to go to the Dark Night Island. I wanted to pick a cavalry to go with me, but since you all want to suppress the bandits, I'll go to the Dark Shadow tribe to get some soldiers. Cheng Fugui stuttered. After all this time, they were not going to go with the young commander? But what was so good about the Grand Marshal? The young commander's Jiao Jiao was so soft and cute. The 50,000 people were crying in their hearts. They were so regretful that their intestines were turning green. Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng stayed in Chengdu for a month. During this time, they visited all the teachers and friends they knew in Chengdu, including the dean of Tianqiong Academy and Wu Fuzi, as well as their former classmates and teammates. No one could believe that Xiao Lulang, who was braver than boys, was actually a girl. She was also so beautiful. You drew the birthmark on your face on purpose, didn't you? To pretend to be a man? In the pavilion of the academy, Mu Chuan looked at Gu Jiao's face and asked. Opposite Gu Jiao sat Yuan Shao and Zhao Wei. Apart from Mu Qingchen, the other members of the 5-man team were all here. Gu Jiao smiled. If you say so. She couldn't tell him that it was chastity sand. Yuan Shao and Zhao Wei were a little embarrassed. Not for anything else, but because they had once asked Lu Lang to take them to the brothel. Now that they thought about it, they were really bastards. Ahem. To ease the awkwardness, Zhao Wei started a new topic. I heard that Zhongding went back to Zhao State and Zhoutong transferred schools. After you left the academy, young Master Qingchen stopped coming to class. My fourth brother went to war. Isn't that right, Lulang? Mu Chuan smiled at Gu Jiao. He was still used to calling Gu Jiao Xiao Lulang. Gu Jiao didn't mind being called that. She nodded. Yes, we stayed at the border for a long time. But he didn't come to class after the war, Zhao Wei sighed. Zhao Wei sighed. I occasionally passed by the Clear Heart Hall, and I saw that the seats you two sat in were still empty. Your classmates in the Clear Heart Hall have reserved seats for you too. But you two won't go back to class in the future, right? They couldn't help but feel a sense of melancholy in their hearts. Yuan Xiao sighed. It seems like only yesterday that we attacked Ju Sai. Do you still remember those Shaolin monks? Did they break Mu Chuan's arm? Fortunately, Lulang was there. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter if we won or lost. In fact, we should have known that Lulang wasn't a mediocre person. Mu Chuan suddenly laughed. Lulang went easy on Canaan Academy just to get the 10,000 taels of gold for the second place. Later, when Lulang wasn't there, our academy got the second place as scheduled. Unfortunately, I was meddlesome and went to the students of Canaan Academy to exchange for the reward of entering the palace to meet the emperor. Zhao Wei looked at him in disdain. So you knew that Lulang wanted the gold? Mu Chuan said helplessly. I found out later. Yuan Xiao corrected him. It's not 10,000 taels, it's 1,000 taels. When did the wrong thing start? Everyone thought that the prize was 10,000 taels of gold. Gu Jiao crossed her arms and looked at Mu Chuan with a dark expression. I still want to beat you up. Mu Chuan was speechless. Here's the wine. Here's the wine. Wu Fuzi carried 2 large jars of fine wine and walked over as if he was flying. He pushed Yuan Xiao aside and sat down next to Gu Jiao. He smiled and said to the few of them, I've treasured Nu, or Hong for 20 years. I didn't even bear to take it out when my daughter got married. Today we'll drink until we're drunk. Are you sure you don't want to drink? Tianqiong Academy's headmaster Tsin asked Mu Qingchen beside a rockery near the pavilion. The people in the pavilion were drinking and chatting merrily. Mu Qingchen looked at them quietly and said calmly, No. Since he missed the opportunity, he shouldn't disturb her anymore. Mu Chuan was drunk and occupied a large jar of wine by himself. He was afraid that someone would chase after him. So he walked around in circles in the pavilion. As he walked, he said drunkenly, Lulang, do you know? My sister. Sister Su Shui. Third Miss Su. She's married. She thinks you're a man. She said she won't marry anyone but you. But my fourth brother also likes you. You're a man. How did both of them fall for you at the same time? Ah, no. You're a woman. Su Shui found out. She cried so hard. She got married after crying. You. Are you done drinking? Don't take the jar away. Zhao Wei, who was also very drunk, chased after Mu Chuan. Mu Chuan stuck his tongue out at him. I'm not giving it to you. I won't give it to you. Come and take it if you can. The few of them were drunk to the point where they could barely stand. Wu Fuzi was lying on the ground with Yuan Zhao's head resting on his stomach. Gu Jiao was already at her limit. She was sleeping soundly on the table with her face red. Headmaster Tsin had already left. Mu Qingchen stood alone under the moonlight. His eyes never left Gu Jiao. Seeing that Mu Chuan was about to pull Gu Jiao up and ask her to continue drinking, Mu Qingchen finally couldn't hold it in anymore. He clenched his fists and walked out from behind the rockery with a complicated expression. He then walked toward the pavilion. Unexpectedly, he had only taken a few steps when a white figure walked toward him from another direction. The person walked up to the pavilion and stopped Mu Chuan from urging him to drink. Mu Chuan fell back and fell asleep with the jar in his arms. He bent down and whispered in Gu Jiao's ear, Jiao Jiao. Oh. Gu Jiao opened her eyes in a daze. She first opened her left eye, then opened her right eye, and a jade-like handsome face came into view. She smiled. Ahing, let's go home, Xiaoheng said softly. Hug me, Gu Jiao said drunkenly. Okay. Xiaoheng stretched out his slender and strong arms, gently wrapped them around her back and legs, and gently carried her up. Gu Jiao leaned against his firm chest, quiet like an obedient kitten. Mu Qingchen clenched his fists. On the ground, Mu Chuan mumbled, "Lu Lang, this may be the last time I drink with you." Mu family. The Mu family was going to fall. He would no longer be the noble son of Sheng capital. Thinking back, she was a nameless student from a lower country. Everyone looked down on her. And he was the high and mighty disciple of the Mu family. Everyone wanted to curry favor with him. In just 2 years, he was about to become a prisoner, and she became the noble commander and princess. He looked at the bright moon in the sky and laughed until tears came out. Life is really unpredictable. In the future, we can't be friends. Xiaoheng stopped and looked down at Gu Jiao, who had fallen asleep in his arms and didn't hear what Mu Chuan said at all. He stepped into the night without looking back. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_89642/1043890045. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 969. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet can be found here. On the 3rd day after Gu Jiao, Mu Chuan and the others drank. The eldest son of the Mu family resigned. It was said that his subordinates caused a murder case. He didn't manage well and didn't have the face to remain as an official, so he begged His Majesty to approve. Shang Guanyin approved. In addition, there was a flood in the south. The Mu family donated 5 million taels of silver to relieve the victims. This was equivalent to emptying the family's property. The Mu family didn't have so much cash on hand, so they could only use the fields, shops, and the family's major industries as compensation. The donation sounded good, but in fact it was no different from confiscating the family's property. Mu Chuan sat in his room, while the guards came and went to move the valuables in the room. "Hey, you can't move this." His servant stopped a guard and looked at the enamel vase in his hand, saying, "This is young master's birthday gift. Young master likes to use it to raise small fishes." That was a childhood memory. Mu Chuan was naughty and couldn't stay idle at home. If he didn't knock over the vase, he would break the porcelain. Later, old Master Mu got an expensive enamel vase from somewhere. Originally, he wanted to arrange flowers, but Mu Chuan had a bright idea and caught 2 small fishes to raise. "Let them take it away," Mu Chuan said faintly. "But young master." The servant couldn't bear it and said, "They've emptied the room. At least leave a vase for you as a memento." Mu Chuan whispered, "No need, I don't want to miss it. It's fine as it is." The guards took the vase away, and Mu Chuan's golden-laid jade belt was also taken away from the wardrobe, leaving only some worthless clothes. "Young master." The servant choked and looked at Mu Chuan. Mu Chuan was originally the most impatient person, but when such a thing happened, he was calmer than anyone else in the family. He slowly stood up and walked out of the house that he had lived in for 20 years expressionlessly. When he crossed the threshold, he looked back and took one last look, making a silent farewell. What the Mu clan had done to the Xianyuan clan back then wasn't any lesser than what the Han clan and Nangong clan had done to the Xianyuan clan. It was just that the Mu clan didn't plot against them on the battlefield. However, when it came to hitting the Xianyuan clan while they were down and framing them, the Mu clan didn't show any mercy. Shang Guanyin will not be lenient to the Mu family. The entire Mu family sat in a tattered carriage and silently left the inner city one morning before the sun had even risen. The servants in the house were dismissed, leaving only a few old servants and children who were unwilling to leave. More than 30 people moved to an old house in the outer city. This was Matriarch Mu's dowry back then, and it was the only asset that had not been handed over. They were used to living a life of luxury. Now that they were reduced to commoners, their family members cried bitterly. Matriarch Mu fell ill on a stormy night. Mu Chuan braved the heavy rain and went around seeking medical attention. However, when they heard that it was to treat the Mu family, no doctor dared to come. Everyone knew how the Mu clan exposed the Xianyuan clan in the past. Now that the Xianyuan clan's grievances were cleared and the empress ascended the throne, the Mu clan's power was gone. If anyone dared to help the Mu clan, they would be going against the empress and the Xianyuan clan. On a rainy night, Mu Chuan finally felt the despair of having his entire family confiscated and exterminated. He dragged his tired body and staggered back to the old house like a walking corpse. As soon as he reached the door, he heard a familiar call behind him. Mu Chuan. He turned around. The heavy rain drenched his eyes and blurred his vision. But he still clearly saw Gu Jiao, who was wearing a long green dress, holding an oil paper umbrella, and carrying a small medicine box, slowly walking towards him. The heavy rain was cold. When it fell into his eyes, it became boiling hot when it flowed out. His throat swelled painfully. Gu Jiao treated Matriarch Mu's illness and left enough medicine. She also told Matriarch Mu to rest well, and not to work hard in the near future. After she left, Matriarch Mu handed a brocade box to Mu Chuan. The second princess consort asked me to pass this to you. Mu Chuan was stunned. She told you her identity? Matriarch Mu smiled weakly. Yes, I didn't expect her to be the brave and skilled commander of the Black Wind Battalion. She's not inferior to a man. Matriarch Mu was a smart person. She said emotionally. She's not only the second princess consort, but also the commander of the Black Wind Cavalry. She came to our house openly to tell the world that the Empress and the Xianyuan clan didn't exterminate the Mu clan. In the future, those people will have to think twice before giving us a hard time. Mu Chuan nodded and opened the brocade box with trembling hands. Inside was a stack of banknotes, a recommendation letter from the State Preceptor Hall, and a note left by Gu Jiao. Mu Chuan, don't give up. Tears welled up in Mu Chuan's eyes. Gu Jiao also went to the Go Club when she was in Xingdu. Unfortunately, the Go Sage of the Six Kingdoms, Mr. Meng, had been staying in his hometown since he went back to Zhao Kingdom to mediate the peace. He hadn't come to Yin Kingdom yet. Gu Jiao guessed that Mr. Meng might have pretended to be a beggar and went to other countries to search for Go talents. As long as Mr. Meng was happy, he didn't have to stay at home to enjoy his old age. At the beginning of August, Gu Jiao and Xiaoheng set off for Dark Night Island. The twins stayed in the palace, and little Jing Kong also stayed in Xingdu. Xianyuan Qi hoped to spend more time with him. Dark Night Island rarely interacted with the outside world. It was inconvenient for Gu Jiao to bring too many people with her. She only brought Liaochen and a few masters of the Shadow Division. How can this number of people be enough? Shang Guanyin said. I'll send you another team. She sent Feng Wuxiu, the head of the Feng family. Outside the palace, Feng Wuxiu was holding a bag of fried fruits. He gnawed on one and handed the rest to Gu Jiao. Do you want to eat? Gu Jiao. His younger brother was going to Dark Night Island. Qing Feng was worried about his brother's safety, so he could only follow him secretly. Liaochen, who thought that he could escape from someone's pursuit by going to Dark Night Island, suffered another tragedy. This time they were not marching to war, so they didn't need to hurry day and night. It took them 1.5 months to reach Pu City. They settled down in Pu City for 2 nights, and caught up with General Chang Wei. They temporarily left Black Wind King under General Chang Wei's care. On the morning of the 3rd day, they set off from Pu City again. 3 days later, they left the northernmost border of the Yin Kingdom, and set foot on the ice field to Dark Night Island. Chang Jing, where did you leave the direwolf? Gu Jiao rummaged in her purse for the map. I lost the map. It doesn't matter, I know where it is. Xiaoheng said. How do you know? Gu Jiao asked. I saw the map. Xiaoheng said. Gu Jiao nodded. Oh, then you lead the way. Qing Feng, come with us. The 3 of them went to look for the snow car and direwolf on Dark Night Island. Feng Wuxiu was wrapped in thick fur and squatted in front of an ice cave. He looked down at the flowing ice water and swallowed hard. Liaochen looked at him with a faint smile. What are you looking at? Feng Wuxiu said greedily. There are so many fish down there. I wonder if they taste good. The direwolf on Dark Night Island was bred on the ice field. Because of their training, they wouldn't wander too far unless they were hunting. They would quickly rush over when they heard the familiar whistle. Gu Jiao took out the whistle that Chang Jing gave her and blew it. She blinked, huh? No response. The decibel of the whistle was beyond the limits of human ears. Only wolves could hear it. If the whistle was broken, humans wouldn't be able to detect it. Gu Jiao blew it again. This time, there was still no response. Let me try, Xiaoheng said. Gu Jiao handed him the whistle. Xiaoheng blew it rhythmically. Soon a dire wolf appeared. Soon after, 2-3 more and more ice-filled wolves charged toward Xiaoheng's direction. The cold wind whistled. He stood on the vast ice field, as if he had become one with it. His eyes were cold, and there was a strange yet powerful aura around him. Gu Jiao tilted her head and looked at him. Oh, her husband was so handsome. Today was another day where her husband was so handsome. There were 21 direwolves in total, and one of them was a little wolf king. The little wolf king was very fierce, especially to strangers who didn't have the aura of Dark Night Island. It bared its teeth and began to show its aggressiveness. Xiaoheng didn't show any fear. He walked forward boldly and knelt down on one knee. He raised his slender hand and gently pressed on the little wolf king's head. A miracle happened. The little wolf king's fierceness was instantly restrained. Gu Jiao was surprised. You know how to tame wolves? Xiaoheng said. Changjing taught me. The little wolf king took the lead to dig a hole and dug out a bunker. It rushed in with the dire wolves and dragged the sleigh out. Gu Jiao's eyes lit up. Isn't this a sleigh? Godfather must have taught the people of Dark Night Island to do this. Xiaoheng's face darkened at the mention of Godfather. It was that man again. When the three of them returned to their original place in the sleigh, Liao Chun and Feng Wuxiu were sitting cross-legged in the snow, roasting fish. Feng Wuxiu grabbed a fish skewered on a stick, blew on it, and took a bite. He said to Liao Chun, "Brother, it's delicious." Taoist Qingfeng's eyes turned cold. Who are you calling brother? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642826/10438545. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion mobile reading website. Chapter 970. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are available here. At the end of August, the ice field had just passed the hottest season of the year. In some places, the ice was not very thick, so the direwolf had to be very careful. The little wolf king leading the pack looked young, but it had a talent that was different from normal wolves. It was very sensitive to danger. Whenever the ice under its feet began to thin, it could sense it and react in time, either changing its path or slowing down. Liao Chen and Xiaoheng took turns driving the sled from the back, giving orders to the direwolf and controlling the sled to maintain stability. Gu Jiao and Taoist Qingfeng also tried to drive the sled. Gu Jiao was too fast and the sled was almost flying, so the four of them voted to stop. Taoist Qingfeng had no sense of direction. They took a nap on the sled, and when they woke up, they found that Taoist Qingfeng had brought everyone back to the border of the Yen Kingdom with the direwolf. Feng Wuxiu was dizzy from riding the sled. He vomited while sitting, not to mention standing up to drive the sled. At the end of August, the ice field welcomed the first snowstorm of the year. They couldn't find a place to hide from the snow, so they could only move forward with difficulty. The snowstorm at this time was not considered heavy for the entire frozen season, but even so, everyone felt the difficulty of moving forward. Xiaoheng and Gu Jiao both thought of Marquis Xianping. It was only a small snowstorm in August, and they had the help of the direwolf, but it was still so difficult to move forward. They couldn't imagine what kind of extreme weather Marquis Xianping had been in to bring the purple grass and fruits out of the ice field. Near evening, the snowstorm finally stopped. The group was almost frozen into ice sculptures on the sled, and the direwolf was so tired that it lay down, unable to move forward. "Are you okay?" Xiaoheng asked Gu Jiao, who was in his arms. "Yes, I'm okay." As soon as Gu Jiao spoke, she realized that she could no longer open her mouth. She could only numbly speak. Feng Wuxiu was also protected in his brother's arms. It was a little cold, but fortunately he didn't freeze to death. It was Mei Chun who drove the sleigh. He stood at the end of the sleigh, his entire body wrapped in thick leather. He wore a leather hat on his head that covered his ears. His long eyelashes were covered with frost, and the snow on his cheeks did not melt, almost forming a cold mask. "Hey." His lips had long been frozen and could not move. He could only rely on his mouth to make vague sounds. "Ox enemy nose, Gega hand." He was wearing gloves, but the gloves were completely frozen on the reins, and his fingers were completely stiff. Taoist Qingfeng wanted to kill him, but now was not the time to do so. He moved his stiff body and walked over to use the dagger to pry open the ice on his gloves. Then he slowly injected a bit of inner strength into his fingers to warm them up. Just now, he had used this method to help Feng Wuxiu resist the cold. On the other side, Gu Jiao and Xiaoheng took firewood from the sled and started a bonfire in the snow. "There's fire, there's fire." Feng Wuxiu hurried over, squatted down, and stretched out his hands to warm the fire. Xiaoheng went to get some dry food. Gu Jiao skewered the dry food with skewers and roasted it over the fire. Xiaoheng took out the ice fish that he had caught along the way to feed the direwolf. Gu Jiao sat in front of the fire and turned her head to look at him. "I don't see you feeding the chickens, dogs, birds, and horses at home. You're quite diligent in feeding the wolves." "Achoo!" Feng Wuxiu sneezed loudly. Gu Jiao reached out and touched his forehead. "I'm fine. My nose is just itchy." "Is it here?" He sniffed and sniffed around. As he sniffed, he moved closer to Gu Jiao. "What?" Gu Jiao looked at him strangely. Feng Wuxiu asked, "Did you hide something to eat?" "I didn't," Gu Jiao said seriously. "Spicy." He turned his head and sneezed again. "When I smell spicy, I sneeze." "Atu. Achoo." Gu Jiao lowered her head and saw that the small meat shop in her purse was indeed exposed. Under Feng Wuxiu's stunned gaze, she hid the meat paste back without changing her expression. "Just eating these isn't enough." Liao Chen glanced at the dry steamed buns on the fire and leisurely went to the nearby ice layer to dig a hole. He caught a few fat fish and brought them back to the fire after killing them. He sat down opposite Taoist Qingfeng and handed him a skewered fish. "Do you know how to roast fish?" "No," Taoist Qingfeng said coldly. "Your brother really doesn't know how to?" Liao Chen asked Feng Wuxiu, who was sitting beside Taoist Qingfeng. Feng Wuxiu nodded. "My brother doesn't know anything. He doesn't know how to cook or sew." Liao Chen looked at Taoist Qingfeng in disbelief. "If you don't know how to cook, how did you survive when you got lost in the forest?" Taoist Qingfeng said, "Wild fruit." Liao Chen's mouth twitched. Liao Chen's cooking skills were comparable to Gu Jiao's. The fish he roasted were fresh and tender. With a sprinkle of fine salt and spices, it was delicious. Feng Wuxiu ate heartily. "Brother Liao Chen, the fish you roasted is so delicious. It's even better than the ones at Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant. When we get back to Sheng City, will we still be able to eat your roasted fish?" Liao Chen said with a smile. "If your brother doesn't kill me, I'm willing to roast a few more fish for you." Feng Wuxiu asked in confusion, "But why would my brother kill you?" Liao Chen's lips curled. "Because..." Taoist Qingfeng grabbed a fish and coldly stuffed it into Liao Chen's mouth. Liao Chen took a bite and held the fish in his hand. He smiled and said, "Because I'm better than your brother. Your brother is jealous of me." "Oh." Feng Wuxiu buried his head in the fish. He was too busy to speak for his brother. Xiaoheng tore off the most tender part of the fish and handed it to Gu Jiao. Liao Chen smiled and picked up another roasted fish from the rack. He gave it to Taoist Qingfeng with a half-smile. Sanjing meat. You can eat it. Taoist Qing Feng said indifferently. You monks eat Sanjing meat? Feng Wuxiu puffed out his cheeks. Brother, he said you can eat it. Taoist Qing Feng glared at him coldly. Whose brother are you? The next day, the group continued on their journey. It took them 3 days to finally see Dark Night Island above the ice at night on the 3rd day of September. There had been a few moderate snowstorms in the past few days. Overall, the temperature had dropped a lot compared to when they first set off. The ice had thickened, making it easy for them to return to the island. The direwolf pulled the sleigh to the ferry of Dark Night Island. It was too late, and the ferry port was already closed. The iron fence that looked like a city gate blocked their path. The guards patrolling above the island noticed them. The leader asked warily, "Who are you?" Xiao Heng showed the token of Dark Night Island that Changjing had left him. He said with a cold gaze, "Marquis Xuanping's residence, Xiao Heng." The leader asked, "Are you the young Marquis of Xiaodu?" Xiao Heng said, "Yes." The leader frowned cautiously. "How do I know if you're an imposter? Wait here. I'll report to the sect master." As soon as he finished speaking, a tall and muscular figure descended from the sky. He flew down the island and onto the sleigh. With a whoosh, he picked up Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao and ran off the island. He only showed the back of his head to the guards. All the guards. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/10436995. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. Chapter 971. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng's cheeks puffed up from the cold wind. Their cheeks changed shape when they turned, but the two had no choice. They could either shut up or open their mouths and become two expressionless sad frogs. Long Yi had wanted to hold Gu Jiao for a long time. Gu Jiao was pregnant, so he couldn't hold her. Gu Jiao was pregnant, so he couldn't hold her. Gu Jiao was in confinement, so he couldn't hold her. Now he could hold her. Xiao Heng was a bonus. Pick one and get one free. The fishermen on the island were processing the fresh fish. Xiao. An afterimage flashed over their heads. The fishermen looked at each other. After some time, Xiao. That afterimage flashed over their heads again. Gu Jiao's face darkened, and she was about to explode. You've already circled the island twice. After circling the island 3 times, the sky was completely dark. Only then did Long Yi reluctantly put the 2 down. On the other side, Changjing had already seen Long Yi flying around the island using his qinggong. Knowing that his people had arrived, he hurriedly went to the ferry to bring the other 3 into the Dark Night sect. Changjing knew Liaochen and Daoist Qingfeng. The 3 of them had fought together at the border. Later, Liaochen even stayed in Jiaodu for a period of time, and had a lot of dealings with Marquis Xuanping's residence. The only person he didn't know was Feng Wuxiu. My younger brother, Daoist Qingfeng introduced. As soon as he said that, the 2 saw Feng Wuxiu pulling Liaochen's sleeve and saying, "Brother, I saw pheasants on the island just now. Let's eat pheasants tonight." Changjing. Daoist Qingfeng. The Dark Night sect was actually divided into inner and outer sects, but they were all on the island. The process to become a disciple of the Dark Night sect was to first enter the outer sect, then go through painstaking training and layers of screening, before being qualified to enter the inner sect. Inner sanctum disciples could enjoy the most powerful martial arts manuals and mental cultivation methods of the Dark Night sect. They could also get more elixirs and resources. Although Changjing was the young sect master, he also cultivated step by step from the outer sect to the inner sect, including his 7 sisters. Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng were family members, not visitors of Jianghu, so Chang Jing and Long Yi took them back to their residence. What was worth mentioning was Long Yi also had his own residence on this island, and it was even bigger than Chang Jing's residence. Long Yi wanted to show his territory to Little Master and Gu Jiao, but he wanted to see Chang Kuan first. This was a courtesy. In the parlor, the group of 5 met Chang Kuan and the 7 daughters of the Chang family. Liaochen, Xiao Heng, Gu Jiao, and Chang Kuan were old acquaintances, while Daoist Qingfeng and Feng Wuxiu were new faces. Eldest Miss. 7th sister, that Daoist priest is very handsome. 2nd Miss. I think monks are more handsome. 3rd Miss. The little handsome brother beside the Daoist priest is very cute, and he looks very well behaved. 7th sister, how about him? 4th Miss. Yes, don't think about that Yi Qing. He has to observe mourning for 3 years, and after 3 years, you'll be almost 30. 7th Miss Chang you couldn't bear it any longer and gritted her teeth. What? Why do you always say that I'm so old? I'm only 21 this year. 22 your birthday was yesterday. 6th Miss Chang strictly added. Nominal age is 23. 5th Miss who had been silent all this time muttered. Don't you think that the most handsome one is the man beside the little girl? Everyone looked at Xiao Heng who was holding Gu Jiao's hand and walking into the parlor. They had been rushing for so long, and everyone was described as being in a difficult situation. But it didn't affect their youth and handsomeness. Xiao Heng was different. He had an aura that was different from the others. The 7 sisters couldn't describe it. 2nd Miss said thoughtfully. He doesn't seem to know martial arts, but he seems to emit an invisible deterrence. Chang Yu said. The little girl is beautiful. Chang Jing came between the 2 sides and said. Let me introduce you. This is my father. She was mainly introducing him to the Feng brothers. Daoist Qingfeng cupped his hands. Baiyun Monastery's Qingfeng greets sect Master Chang. This is my younger brother, Feng Wuxiu. Chang Kuan smiled. Daoist Qingfeng, I've heard a lot about you. Then he looked at Feng Wuxiu, who was of a suitable age and handsome appearance. His eyes lit up. Young hero Feng, I've heard a lot about you. Feng Wuxiu knew his place, he was just a nobody, so Chang Kuan was just being polite. He politely bowed like a junior, sect Master Chang. Chang Kuan was very satisfied. Chang Jing walked in front of her sisters, and this time she introduced them to the 5 of them. My eldest sister is Chang Ying, 2nd sister is Chang Ling, 3rd sister is Chang Yin, 4th sister is Chang Xiu, 5th sister is Chang Ying, 6th sister is Chang Jun, and 7th sister is Chang Yu. Chang Ying was not much younger than Princess Xinyang, and Chang Ling and Chang Yin were also in their 30s. They looked very young, but they had a righteous and chivalrous aura that did not lose to men. Gu Jiao felt like she had met the 7 fairies in real life. They were all beautiful, had different styles, and were all highly skilled in martial arts. Chang Jing continued the introduction. Zhaodu's young Marquis Xiao Heng and Black Wind Cavalry's Commander Gu Jiao are married. Normally, when people introduced women, if they were unmarried, they would be the daughter of some family, and if they were married, they would be the wife of some family. Chang Jing was not like this. He remembered that Princess Xinyang and Aunt Yujin had said that every woman should be herself first, and then someone else's wife. At night, his 6 brothers-in-law also came. Chang Kuan's family had a very good culture. The 7 daughters were forthright and straightforward, and his brothers-in-law were not people who schemed against each other, so there was no burden when they interacted. Dinner was the highest standard of hospitality on Dark Knight Island, an all-fish feast. The main ingredients were fish, shrimp, and crabs caught by the fishermen. The cooking method was not as complicated as the all-fish feast in Gu Jiao's previous life. Instead, it was mainly grilled fish, marinated in sauce, boiled in soup, and fresh fish. It preserved the original taste and freshness of the ingredients to the greatest extent. Feng Wuxiu could not stop eating. He was like a little fat squirrel eating. I've never known that fish can be eaten raw, and it doesn't smell at all. Crab in sauce is even better, Chang Jing said. Feng Wuxiu did not dare to try it at first, but the sashimi gave him great confidence. He took a piece of crab meat covered in chili sauce, closed his eyes and bit into it. The The crystal-clear crab meat mixed with the salty and juicy crab roe exploded in his mouth, and all his taste buds were stimulated. The crab meat was washed away with wine and marinated in a secret sauce. The saltiness was just right, spicy and sweet. Ah, delicious. Liaochen was not used to eating raw food. It was rare for him to have the same taste as Daoist Qingfeng. Gu Jiao tasted a bit of everything. She liked the fish soup the most. It was delicious. Gu Jiao thought that Xiaoheng would not be used to eating raw food since he grew up in Zhao country. Who would have thought that he was even more used to eating raw food? After the meal, Changjing took Liaochen, Daoist Qingfeng, and Feng Wuxiu back to the courtyard arranged for them to rest. Gu Jiao and Xiaoheng stayed and told Chang Kuan the purpose of their trip. The first island master might be an old friend of mine. I want to see him, Gu Jiao said very tactfully. When the first island master passed away, Gu Jiao was not even born yet. In terms of age, it was impossible for them to meet. However, Chang Kuan had witnessed too many unimaginable things from the first island master. He no longer dared to use common sense to infer everything related to him. Chang Kuan said, "I'll take the liberty to ask. You and him, did you come from the same place?" He knew that the first island master came from a different world. Since Gu Jiao said that they were old friends, they might also be from a different world. Yes, Gu Jiao admitted frankly. She was so straightforward that Chang Kuan was stunned. Chang Kuan said with a smile, "To be honest, I'm actually very curious about you and the first island master." Gu Jiao said, "I can tell you what you want to hear, but it's hard to explain in a few words. I might have to stay on the island for a few more days." Chang Kuan hurriedly said, "How can it be a bother? You are a friend of the first island master. That means you are an important guest of our Dark Knight sect. The Dark Knight sect will always be open to you. You can stay as long as you want. I can't ask for more." He was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Gu Jiao nodded. "Okay, I'll take you to the first island master first." Chang Kuan brought the two of them to the forbidden area of the Dark Knight Society, which was actually located at the back mountain of the Chang family. The first half of the back mountain could be entered at will, but the second half was bounded by the monument carved by the first island master. Only the former island master could enter. Even Changjing had never entered it. Long Yi was an exception because he originally lived in the forbidden area. When they passed by that boundary monument, Gu Jiao raised her hand and gently caressed it. She seemed to feel the aura of her godfather. Xiaoheng took her disappointment and frustration into his eyes. Jealousy once again overturned in his heart. What, it's been so long and you still can't forget? In the end, who is the most important man in your heart? With a black face, Xiaoheng followed Chang Kuan and Gu Jiao into a spacious courtyard. Chang Kuan said, "This is the place where the first island master once lived. Long Yi also lives here." Thinking of something, Gu Jiao asked, "What was Long Yi's name when he was young?" Chang Kuan looked at Long Yi behind him. Long Yi looked at the sky. Chang Kuan cleared his throat and said, "Meng Meng." Gu Jiao. Long Yi and Gu Jiao visited every room in the courtyard. Xiaoheng didn't want to visit. Why did he want to see that man's things? He sat in the courtyard and drank tea with Chang Kuan. Gu Jiao first went to the study of her godfather. She found a lot of handwriting left behind by her godfather. Most of them were his experiences in this space-time. There were also some mathematical formulas to deduce the coordinates she had left behind at that time. Gu Jiao looked at the familiar handwriting, and an indescribable melancholy welled up in her heart. How did Godfather know I had come here and left behind the coordinates? What exactly is missing in my memory? This study shouldn't be the real study of her godfather. He would never completely expose his secrets to others. Long Yi, is there any other place? Long Yi thought for a bit and brought Gu Jiao to a secret room. He pointed at a groove on the wall and said, "You can't enter." This groove was the same as the groove in the operating room of the State Preceptor Hall. Could it be that this was the space coordinate left behind by her godfather? Gu Jiao silently called for the small medicine box in her heart. The small medicine box didn't appear. Gu Jiao walked out of the back mountain and returned to her and Xiaoheng's room. With a dark face, she took the small medicine box from the table. she muttered. Why do I have to be carried? Digression. The length of Dark Knight Island is not long, almost finished. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1043658854. HTML Genius will remember this site's address. www.zhhbqg.com Bkuj mobile reading website. Chapter 972. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. After putting the small medicine box into the groove, the originally empty secret room really had a different scene. What came into view was a dark and long passage. Long Yi's eyes instantly lit up when he saw the passage. It was as if a child who had been away for many days finally saw a harbor to return home. He impatiently ran into the passage. Gu Jiao followed behind him. In fact, Gu Jiao had always been very curious. Where did this kind of space come from? What kind of method was used to keep it in this space-time? It was impossible to say that it was created by one's own hands. The developed energy and basic facilities of the ancient times were not enough to create this kind of base with one's own strength. Gu Jiao also considered whether it came from the research institute of her previous incarnation. However, this guess was quickly rejected by her. The equipment of the operating room was much more advanced than the research institute. Long Yi pushed open the door at the end of the passage. A strong light shone. Gu Jiao instinctively raised her hand to block the light. Long Yi entered the room without any hesitation. After adapting to the light, Gu Jiao also walked over. What surprised Gu Jiao was that this was not an operating room. Instead, it was more like a well-equipped laboratory. In the middle, there was a rectangular experiment table made of special metal. There was nothing on the table. It seemed like her godfather had tidied it up before his death. Other than the wall with the door, the other 3 walls had about 3 meters high shelves. On the shelves, there was a display of transparent glassware. In the glassware, there was some soil with different colors and composition. Some soil had successfully cultivated plants. Some soil had corroded and no plants could survive. The second situation accounted for the majority. And these were all for the cultivation of purple grass. Looking at these failed experiments, Gu Jiao could almost imagine how her godfather tried to cultivate purple grass again and again. He failed again and again until he finally collapsed and fell into despair. There were no other discoveries in the laboratory. It was as if the endless hardships had been deliberately erased by the godfather. Long Yi arrived behind the shelf on the right side of the entrance, then pressed a switch on the wall. Along with a click sound, it seemed some kind of lock was opened. After that, Long Yi pushed forward. It turned out that there was an invisible door on the wall. Seeing Long Yi had entered that door, Gu Jiao also followed him in without thinking. The scene in front of her completely stunned her. It was neither an operating theater nor a laboratory. Instead, it was a small indoor playground. Long Yi opened his arms and threw himself into a pool of blue and white ocean balls. He was too big to be submerged by the ocean ball, so he stuck his head in. In addition to the ball pool, there were also trampolines, iron chain bridges, rock climbing, rainbow stairs, and other recreational facilities for children. However, upon closer inspection, these amusement facilities were different from the ones in the shopping malls in his previous life. They were more difficult, the slopes were shakier, and there were all kinds of data monitoring. So in the end, is this a place for Long Yi to play or a place for training? Gu Jiao muttered. Long Yi again went to ride his young wooden horse. Unfortunately, he was already very big. When he sat on it, his arms and legs shrunk, making him very sullen. Even so, he still started to sway. Gu Jiao felt that this place was not as simple as an indoor playground. While she was looking all around, suddenly a mechanical sound came from the top of her head. Deep, shortly afterwards a slender green light scanned over. First it fell on Long Yi's body, then it scanned from head to toe. Soon afterwards, the rotating detector opened its mouth. Meng Meng, welcome home. It was really called Meng Meng Ah. Say, when Long Yi left, he was only 5 years old. After so many years had passed, how did it determine Long Yi's parameters? While she was thinking, the detector's green light scanned the body of Gu Jiao. The light at the source of the detector flickered twice, and the mechanical sound once again resounded. This time, its tone was clearly somewhat cold. Unknown intruder detected. Do you want to eliminate? A whole row of gun muzzles emerged from the wall, and uniformly aimed at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao's eyebrows jumped. In the next second, Long Yi stood up and wanted to grab Gu Jiao. However, before he could do anything, the detector opened its mouth. System pause. System error. System restart. System overload. Gu Jiao completely didn't understand what was happening. After another series of mechanical sound, the detector drooped down and crashed. And the crisis was solved just like that? After 3 seconds, it restarted again. First, it took back the gun, then it scanned Long Yi again. This time, its tone was a lot more relaxed. Meng Meng, today is a beautiful day, welcome home. After that, there was no more, and it didn't scan Gu Jiao again. Is Godfather here? Gu Jiao asked. It didn't answer. Is King here? Gu Jiao called Godfather by his codename in the organization. It still didn't answer. Long Yi talked to it. Gu Jiao turned to Long Yi and said. Long Yi looked up at it and thought for a moment. Then he seriously educated it. You have to talk. Sure enough, it responded. Its tone was light and there was a hint of a smile in it. Meng Meng, do you want to talk? Jiao Jiao has something to ask you, Long Yi said. The detector began to scan Gu Jiao. Unknown intruder detected. Do you want to eliminate? System pause. System error. System restart. System overload. Once again, the detector crashed. Gu Jiao sighed. Looks like it won't work. She wanted to pull out some information related to Godfather from its database. She didn't know if there was a problem with the system or if Godfather had written an escape program, but this person really left without leaving a single word for her. However, this trip wasn't without discovery. Long Yi took Gu Jiao to see his bedroom. The place where he slept as a child was actually a hibernation chamber. At the bottom of the hibernation chamber was a record of the life form's characteristics. K93 Galaxy Intelligent Life Form Grade S. This was Long Yi? Long Yi wasn't from this space-time. What was grade? Combat power? No wonder Long Yi was so strong. But how did Godfather meet such a strong Long Yi? She felt that it had something to do with the small medicine box. Long Yi lay down in his hibernation chamber and placed his hands on his stomach. His posture was exactly the same as when he was a child. Gu Jiao asked him, Long Yi, do you remember when you first met your father? Long Yi shook his head. Thinking of something, Long Yi sat up and went to his desk. Opening the drawer, he took out a photo of Gu Jiao from her previous life. In the photo, she was carrying out an undercover mission. She had an indifferent expression and wore a small red dress with a crescent moon jade pendant. It was the pendant she had given to Xianyuan Qi. After Long Yi's memory was erased by the people of Sword Hut, he still remembered this jade pendant. When he was assassinating Xianyuan Qi, he saw the jade pendant on Xianyuan Qi's neck, so he gave up his mission. Gu Jiao pointed at the photo and asked, Did your father tell you who she is? Long Yi nodded and said solemnly, She is the most important person in his life. She is the person I must protect when I meet her. Xiao Heng was drinking tea with Chang Kuan in the courtyard. From time to time, he would look in the direction of the house. Chang Kuan said with a smile, If little Marquis is curious, you can go in and take a look. Xiao Heng coldly snorted and said, What am I curious about? I am curious about a man who did not hesitate to create Dark Night Island for my wife, planted the purple grass, treated her better than me, and made her think about him endlessly all day long. I am not curious. Chang Kuan. Then, don't shake your leg before you speak. Gu Jiao and Long Yi came out after a full hour. Xiao Heng's eyes had already flown to Gu Jiao, but he pretended to be calm and asked, "Finished looking?" Gu Jiao nodded and her mood was somewhat low. When Xiao Heng saw her dejected look because of another man, he was so mad that he wanted to stomp his feet. He asked with a calm face, "Did you find anything?" Gu Jiao shook her head. "No, he wiped everything too cleanly, as if he was afraid that I would find something here." Xiao Heng raised his hand and gently touched her head. "He didn't want you to be sad." Xiao Heng felt that if he were in Xiao Heng's position, he would definitely do the same. Everything he did was not to make her feel grateful. On the contrary, he hoped that she could live without any worries and burdens. Therefore, she didn't need to know that he had been in hell. She just needed to move forward and see the light. Digression, Dark Knight Island was almost explained, and the progress bar was more than half. Happy. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428226/1043501997. HTML Genius remembered the address of this website. www.zhbqg.com, Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 973. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that can't be found on the internet are available here. Gu Jiao lived on the Dark Knight Island for 7 days. She told Chang Kuan about her origin. Although Chang Kuan had expected it, he was still shocked when he heard it from her. Gu Jiao also mentioned the identity of the Lord of Shadows. Chang Kuan asked when she came and when she left. He felt very regretful. Chang Kuan sighed. "You almost met, what?" Gu Jiao felt the cold wind whistling in her face and listened to the sound of the waves. She looked at Chang Kuan in amazement. Chang Kuan looked at the vast sea and sighed. "There are some things I didn't understand at first. After listening to you, I probably know what the island master meant." In the organization, Gu Jiao violated the unforgivable rules and was hunted down by the organization. In order to save Gu Jiao, the Godfather deliberately let her get the small medicine box in an operation. "Godfather, this box is so beautiful. Here you are." "I'm not interested." His cold voice rang out in the empty building. He lifted his long and straight legs, stepped over the corpse that was still cold on the ground, and left without looking back. After that, the small medicine box took Gu Jiao to this time and space. The small medicine box used up all its energy and took 10 years to recover. The first thing it did was to bring the Godfather here. But it didn't have enough energy, and the time dimension deviated. It came 10 years earlier than Gu Jiao. At that time, Chang Kuan was still a child living in a small fishing village by the sea. He saw a young man who fainted by the sea. The man's clothes were strange, but the man's face was very good-looking. He didn't look like a bad guy. He ran home and called his father. Her father rescued the man and took him in for a few months. Later, the village was submerged by the tsunami. The man evacuated the villagers to an isolated island, which was later called the Dark Knight Island. 2 years. Chang Kuan said. "One morning, I pushed open the door to bring him food and found that he was gone. My father and I searched the entire island, but we couldn't find him. 10 years later, he appeared again. By then, I had already grown up. He brought me to create the Dark Knight clan. He said that he was going out to sea to look for someone, and that he hoped to meet him this time. You don't need me to tell you the result. He returned empty-handed. When he came here for the 3rd time, he didn't mention anything about looking for people anymore. Instead, he started to plant purple grass. Because at that time, she had already been in a plane crash, and her body was nowhere to be found. It was impossible for her to transmigrate, and the transmigration of her soul required an important medium, the purple grass. Gu Jiao concluded. She made a mistake in the organization, so the organization erased her key memories and started hunting her down. She came to a different world and became the first Lord of Shadows. Later, she returned to the modern world. Due to the influence of the space-time magnetic field, she lost all memories related to her transmigration. She went to the organization as usual. The organization pretended that nothing had happened and launched a second hunt for her, which was the plane crash plan. But what did she do wrong? What were the key memories that had been erased by the organization? Sir, are you willing to take the lady beside you as your wife? Regardless of whether she is rich or poor, healthy or sick in the future, will you always be with her? Yes, I am. Madam, are you willing to marry the groom? Regardless of whether he is rich or poor, healthy or sick in the future, will you always be with him? The bride looked at the man in a daze. The man raised his slender hand and gently stroked her cheek. He looked at her deeply. Are you willing? Bang. A gunshot rang out. Gu Jiao woke up with a start. She sat up on the bed vigilantly and reached for the gun under the pillow. She didn't touch it. Only then did she realize that this was not her previous life. She had just had a dream. What happened in the dream had really happened. They had received a mission. Someone would assassinate the daughter of a certain consortium at the wedding of the century. Gu Jiao disguised herself as the bride to lure the snake out of its hole. The groom was originally himself, but for some reason, it was changed to her godfather. Fortunately, it was changed. The enemy's movements were too fast. The snipers lying in ambush did not have time to snipe him. He shot at Gu Jiao. Her godfather took the bullet for her. If the one standing in front of Gu Jiao was the real groom, Gu Jiao would have already died under the gun. Where's Aheng? Gu Jiao looked all around and found that Xiaoheng was not there. She put on her shoes and got out of bed. Walking around the screen, she saw Xiaoheng sitting cross-legged on the blanket in front of the brazier. His face was black and he was sulking. Who was he angry at? Of course, he was angry at his godfather. His wife was thinking about another man every day. He was jealous to death. What are you thinking about? Gu Jiao tilted her head and asked him. Xiaoheng asked very seriously. If my godfather and I fell into the water, who would you save first? Gu Jiao. In October, the weather on the ice field was not very suitable for traveling. They needed to get through the ice field before the end of the month. Gu Jiao said goodbye to Chang Kuan. Chang Kuan hoped that Gu Jiao and Long Yi could stay on the island for a few more days, but he also understood that Gu Jiao had a pair of twins at home. It was indeed time for her to go back. I think Dark Knight Island is pretty good. I'm a little reluctant to leave, Feng Wuxiu said regretfully. Daoist Qing Feng glanced at his younger brother. You're reluctant to leave the food on the island, right? Feng Wuxiu pursed his lips and did not say anything. Goodbye. Xiaoheng cupped his hands to Chang Kuan. He was finally leaving this troublesome place. There was no need to be jealous of another man. Chang Kuan smiled and also cupped his hands. Everyone take care. Lu Chun and Daoist Qing Feng nodded in return. Feng Wuxiu also politely saluted. Uncle Chang, if you have time, come to the country of Yen. I will treat you to good food. Chang Kuan laughed. Okay, it's a deal. The father and son watched them get on the sleigh and disappear from sight under the lead of the direwolf. Chang Jing lowered his eyes silently, feeling depressed. Chang Kuan suddenly threw him a bag. Chang Jing was stunned and looked at Chang Kuan in confusion. Chang Kuan snorted. All right, let's go. A grown son could not be kept at home. At the end of September, the 6 of them returned to Puqing. Gu Jiao saw the Black Wind King. This was the longest time they had been apart since they fought side by side. The Black Wind King rubbed his head against Gu Jiao, as if silently expressing his longing. It snowed at the border in October. They braved the cold wind and snow to return to Chengdu. The twins could already sit and crawl. They had grown into 2 cute chubby babies. Jing Kong had grown taller again. He was practicing his spear skills with Xianyuan Qi. Gu Jiao saw the handsome little figure in the courtyard, and did not dare to recognize him. Jiao. He saw Gu Jiao, and with a flip of his hand, he stabbed his little red tasseled spear into the ground in a fluid motion. Then he flew and ran toward Gu Jiao in high spirits. If the youth was strong, the country would be strong. She saw the future of the Xianyuan family and the future of the Yan kingdom. On New Year's Eve, Princess Xinyang was woken up by Xiao Yi early in the morning. "Mother, I can't sleep. I want to get up." Xiao Yi was 2 years old. She spoke very well and was very energetic. Every day, she would go out to play before dawn. But she wasn't going to play today. She put on her clothes and a pretty pink rabbit fur hat and huffed and puffed as she came to the door and looked outside eagerly. "What are you looking at, Yi?" Eugene asked her with a smile. "Brother, sister-in-law," Xiao Yi said in a childish voice. Xiao Heng sent a letter saying that he would rush back for New Year's Eve dinner. However, she heard that the official road outside the West City Gate had been snowed for a few days. She did not know if he would be able to make it back in time. Xiao Yi didn't go anywhere. She just sat on the doorsill and propped up her cheeks with her hands, waiting like a little brother gazing rock. Heaven did not disappoint those who waited. When it was close to noon, Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao's carriage arrived. The first one to jump down was little Jing Kong. "Brother Jing Kong." Xiao Yi greeted him sweetly. She looked up at little Jing Kong, who had grown a lot taller. She opened her mouth wide in surprise. "Wow, Yi." Little Jing Kong patted her little head like a big child. The 8-year-old boy already had the chic and handsome look of a young teenager. Soon Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao came down with the twins. "Brother, sister-in-law." Xiao Yi came over to greet them. She looked at the little guys in their arms eagerly. Who are they? If one had to say who had changed the most in this group, it would be the twins. When they left, they were only 2 months old. Now they were 10 months old. Not only had they grown taller and fatter, but their facial features had also grown. Moreover, they used to be wrapped in swaddling clothes. Now they were fully dressed and wearing tiger head hats. They were smart and sensible babies. Xiao Heng pinched her chubby cheeks in amusement. "Little niece and nephew. Don't you remember?" Xiao Yi widened her eyes. Bandits were rampant in the east of Zhao country. General Wei Yuan was injured. Not long after Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng left Zhao country, Xiao Ji was ordered to go to the east to fight the bandits. On New Year's Eve he was on the battlefield. The New Year's Eve dinner was at Renshou Palace. The Empress, noble consort Zhuang, the princes, and the imperial grandchildren all came. Gu Jiao saw consort Rui Wang and Huang Fuxian, whom she had not seen for a long time. Consort Rui Wang's little princess was about the same age as Gu Xiaobao. She was 3 years old this year. She was a shy and cute little girl. Consort Rui Wang was pregnant again. Du Xiaoyan had already given birth to the crown prince's eldest grandson. Empress Xiao did not care whether Consort Rui Wang's baby was a boy or a girl. Little Jing Kong and Qin Chuyu lit firecrackers in the courtyard. The little guys were so scared that they screamed. Huang Fuxian had completely adapted to the prosthetic limbs. He walked like a normal person. He had another bone fracture in the middle of the journey. It was done by Dr. Song in the medical center of the Miracle Hall. With the anesthetic left by Gu Jiao, the pain was controlled to a bearable level. Rui Wang and her husband were kind and took good care of him. His temperament was much more cheerful than when he first came. Gu Jiao also saw him teasing little Jing Kong and Qin Chuyu with the fake firecrackers. In the end, only Qin Chuyu fell for it. He was convulsing with laughter. Consort Rui Wang said with a smile, "The palace hasn't been so lively for a long time." Gu Jiao looked at her grandaunt who was playing cards with Empress Xiao, Consort Zhuang, and Princess Xinyang. She smiled and said, "It will always be lively in the future." "It's a pot." Her grandaunt slapped the cards in her hand on the table. Empress Xiao wanted to cry, but had no tears. "Why did I lose again?" It was late at night. A group of people came out of Renshou Palace one after another. The children had already fallen asleep. Xiao Heng got out of the carriage with little Jing Kong in his arms. "He's grown up. He's so heavy." It was not until they entered the courtyard and put little Jing Kong on the soft bed that the scheming little monk hummed and said, "I'm not heavy. It's because you're not strong enough." Xiao Heng's face darkened. "You're pretending to be asleep." In the main courtyard of the princess mansion, Yujin put the sleeping Yi into the quilt. She turned to Princess Xinyang and said, "Princess, You should rest early. Princess Xinyang stood in front of the window, quietly looking at the endless night. Princess? Yujin came to her side and looked her up and down. What's wrong? Do you miss the Marquis? In the past, if Yujin asked this, Princess Xinyang would mercilessly say, how could I miss him? But this time, she didn't say anything. Yujin poured her a cup of hot tea, and put the cloak she had just taken off on her. It's windy. Princess Xinyang took the teacup in her hand and said to Yujin, Yujin. Yes. Yujin looked at her and waited for her to continue. Forget it. It's nothing. She gave up. Yujin had served her for many years. How could she not know what she was thinking? Princess, are you missing the Marquis? The Marquis was such a good person. Few women wouldn't be tempted by him. The princess wasn't tempted before because she was sick. But since the Marquis killed Queen Liang, the princess's condition improved a lot. Plus, the Marquis had done everything for the princess. Something must have sprouted in the princess's heart. But the princess didn't know how to like someone. The princess always thought that her tolerance for the Marquis was because the Marquis was the child's father. She allowed the Marquis to come and go in the princess' residence to comfort the crying Yi. Yujin looked at her steadily. Princess, go find the Marquis. What? She was stunned. Yujin sighed. Don't you want to understand your heart? She opened her mouth. Yujin smiled. Go find the Marquis. The moment you see him, you will know the answer in your heart. Digression. Xinyang and Xiaoji's sweet story after the two of them. It's Jing Kong and Lu Yixing's. You always say that I forgot about Lu Yixing. I'm so wronged. Shouldn't I write it according to the time? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/10434539. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 974. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found online are all available here. Every New Year's Eve, they had to stay up late, but it was impossible for them to stay up all night. After midnight, the firecrackers in the capital gradually subsided, and the princess residence fell into silence. Gu Jiao finished washing up and came out of the bathroom. Xiao Heng was still awake and was sitting on the bed reading a book. When the princess residence was first built, fire tunnels were dug under the courtyards to connect to the caves outside. Every winter, they only needed to burn firewood at the caves to let the heat flow into the house through the fire tunnels. It was commonly known as the Earth Dragon heating system. The house was very warm. Xiao Heng leaned against the head of the bed with one leg stretched out lazily, and the other bent casually. He was only wearing a thin set of white pajamas. The collar of the pajamas was slightly open, revealing his exquisite collarbone and his sexy Adam's apple. Even his Adam's apple was so beautiful. He was very focused, and people couldn't help but feel an aura of abstinence. Gu Jiao's eyes were fixed on him. Xiao Heng flipped a page of the book and continued to pose as if he didn't know that she was here. Gu Jiao, who didn't know anything, was almost drooling. Her husband was so handsome at all times. She really wanted to pounce on him. Wait. There was a baby in the house. Gu Jiao looked at the cradle at the side. It was empty. Where's the baby? She asked Xiao Heng in a daze. Oh, you're done washing up. Xiao Heng seemed to have only just noticed her arrival. He gracefully and calmly closed the book. His slender fingers were like jade as they landed on the book, turning the high-quality watercolor paper into scraps of grass and wood. Gu Jiao swallowed her saliva. Xiao Heng turned his head slightly. The angle was perfect. He looked at her gently and said without changing his expression, Jing Kong said that he wants to sleep with his little nephew and niece. I brought the baby over. The nanny will be on duty at night. Don't worry. Her husband's voice was also so pleasant to the ears. It was so soft and numbing that it could make one's ears pregnant. Gu Jiao came to the bed, bent her knees and climbed onto the bed. She propped herself up with one hand and moved closer to him, while her other hand took away his book. Xiaoheng looked at her helplessly, smiled and asked, "What's wrong?" Gu Jiao said seriously, "I want to eat you." Xiaoheng's lips curled up. He held back his smile and looked at her calmly. "Didn't you say you were sleepy in the carriage?" Gu Jiao shook her head vigorously. "I'm not sleepy now." Xiaoheng's cold fingertips gently pressed against her moist lips. He said in a hoarse voice, "You said it." Gu Jiao opened her eyes wide and nodded. Xiaoheng caressed her delicate cheeks. He turned over and pressed her under his body. He lowered his head and kissed her lips. "You're not allowed to sleep tonight." Their intimate movements only stopped when it was almost dawn. Gu Jiao was like a satisfied little lazy cat. She lay in his arms and fell asleep. Xiaoheng looked at the person in his arms dotingly. He couldn't help but kiss her red and swollen lips. Then he hugged her and fell asleep with her. The two of them slept until the sun was high in the sky. Xiaoheng woke up first. He vaguely felt that someone was pressing down on the quilt. He moved his body and slowly opened his sleepy eyes. Who would have thought that what he saw was an adorable little head? He was shocked on the spot and instantly woke up. He recognized his little sister. Xiao Yi was sitting cross-legged on the quilt. She was holding her little pillow in her arms. She held her chin with one hand and looked at her brother without blinking. Seeing this scene early in the morning, Xiaoheng was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He hurriedly lifted the quilt and looked inside. Fortunately, he was afraid of catching a cold before going to bed, so he and Gu Jiao put on clothes. He composed himself and sat up from the blanket. He tucked Gu Jiao, who was still sleeping soundly, in the corner and asked Xiao Yi, "Why are you here? And you're holding this?" He was referring to her little pillow. Xiao Yi said in a cute voice, "Because from today onwards, I'm moving in with Gij and sister-in-law." He frowned strangely. "What do you mean?" Xiao Yi stood up and stood upright on the bed. She bowed deeply to Xiaoheng. "Mother went to find father. I'll ask Gij and sister-in-law to take care of me in the future." Xiaoheng. On the first day of the new year, his mother, who had followed the rules all her life, actually left the whole family to look for her husband. What was wrong with this world? It rarely snowed in the eastern part of Zhao country. This year was an exception. In addition, there was war and natural disasters. The common people's lives suddenly became difficult. Princess Xinyang traveled incognito. She sat in an inconspicuous carriage. From time to time, she would open the window to look at the scenery along the way. The closer they got to the border, the more desolate the streets were. The doors of the shops were closed. Common people begged on the streets and alleys. Some had even frozen to death. "Princess, don't look," Eugene advised. Princess Xinyang sighed. "So this is how war is fought." She was a noble princess of the imperial family. She grew up in the capital. Her fief was also the most prosperous and stable place in Zhao country. She had never personally experienced the cruelty of war. Eugene closed the window for her. She knew that although the princess looked unreasonable, she was actually kind-hearted. At first, when they met the disaster victims, the princess would always be generous. However, as the number of disaster victims increased, their traveling expenses decreased. They were no longer able to help these disaster victims. Eugene didn't want the princess to be depressed. She hurriedly changed the topic. "Princess, we've arrived at Li County. This is the county closest to the border. We'll reach the Marquis' Army Camp 30 Li East." Princess Xinyang lightly said. "Oh." Eugene secretly smiled. The carriage continued to move forward. It was almost noon. They were hungry. Eugene had the driver stop at a small inn that looked relatively clean. The conditions here couldn't be compared to those in the capital. The water they drank had sand, the rice they ate was coarse, and even the salt used in the dishes was coarse. The taste was slightly bitter. Eugene picked up some vegetables for Princess Xinyang. If I had known it would be so bitter, I wouldn't have persuaded you to come. Princess Xinyang didn't say anything. She frowned and began to eat. Halfway through the meal, there was a commotion on the street outside, followed by the cries of women and children. Go and see what's happening. Princess Xinyang said. Yes. Eugene left the inn. Not long after, she returned with a sullen face. She helplessly said to Princess Xinyang, a beggar tried to grab a mantle that fell on the ground and startled the horse. The horse's owner whipped him a few times. The woman and child were commoners passing by. They were careless and were hit by the whip. Were they injured? Princess Xinyang asked. Eugene said. That beggar was beaten up. His injuries were quite serious. The woman and child suffered minor injuries. As soon as she finished speaking, a woman's aggrieved and indignant cries came from outside. How can you beat people on the street? Is there any law? Let's go take a look. Princess Xinyang put down her chopsticks and promptly put on her veil. Just as she stood up, a male guest in his early 30s at the next table leisurely advised, judging from your accents, you must be from out of town? These days, other than the government, there are actually people willing to come to Lee County. It's really rare. I'll give you two a piece of advice. Don't meddle in other people's business. Don't get yourself involved. The old man at the other table also earnestly said, that's right. You can't afford to offend the person outside. Don't meddle. Eugene politely asked, Sir, do you know the origins of the group of people outside? The old man sighed. They're not from the Zhao kingdom. They're from the Dongyi tribe. The world was divided into 6, but other than the 6 kingdoms, there were many large and small tribes and clans. For example, the Tujue in the north of the Jin kingdom, and the Dongyi in the east of the Zhao kingdom. Eugene suspiciously asked, aren't the Dongyi colluding with bandits and fighting against the imperial army? How can the Dongyi people be so tyrannical in the county of the Zhao kingdom? The man in his early 30s said, they're going to negotiate for peace. Princess Xinyang frowned. Negotiate for peace? Who made the decision? The emperor didn't issue such an imperial edict. Her aura was too strong. For a moment, she intimidated everyone present. The old man was the first to come back to his senses. He looked Princess Xinyang and Eugene up and down. The two were dressed simply, but their auras were extraordinary. Dressed simply, they shouldn't be nobles from the capital, right? Impossible. Why would nobles from the capital come to a place like this? He calmed down and said, of course it's Marquis Xuanping's idea. Eugene refuted. Why would Marquis Xuanping negotiate for peace with a small barbarian tribe? Flattening their tribe is Marquis Xuanping's style. The old man didn't answer. Instead, it was the man in his early 30s who spoke. He sneered and said, isn't this because the Dongyi offered a beauty to Marquis Xuanping? It's said that she's the pearl of the Dongyi tribe, the king of Dongyi's favorite daughter. The little princess of the Dongyi tribe is sitting in the carriage escorted by the group of people outside. Now you know why I stopped you from sending you to your deaths, right? Eugene looked at her mistress worriedly. Princess Xinyang's eyelashes trembled. Her body emitted a bone-chilling coldness. Eugene looked at them and said seriously, Marquis Xuanping already has a wife. He won't do anything to betray Princess Xinyang. The man smiled. Marquis Xuanping is naturally dissolute. His relationship with Princess Xinyang has long been distant. Moreover, the little princess of the Dongyi tribe is really beautiful. No man can resist her. Princess Xinyang left with a dark face. Madam. Eugene took out a piece of silver from her purse and placed it on the table. She hurriedly chased after her mistress. The old man and the young man both looked at the silver and paused for 3 seconds. They stood up at the same time and wanted to take the silver for themselves. The waiter quickly came over and stuffed the silver into his pocket before the two of them could do so. Then he took out a dozen copper coins and ran to the counter. Shopkeeper, the bill is over there. The old man and the man curled their lips in disappointment. The Dongyi people left, the woman and the child left, and the injured beggar was helped down by his companions. Princess Xinyang looked at the empty street, and the nameless fire in her heart burned even more fiercely. She lifted her dress and got into the carriage. Eugene followed her, trembling with fear. She sat down beside her and asked tentatively, "Princess, don't take it to heart. They don't know the Marquis. They made it up." Princess Xinyang said coldly, "Does his character need to be made up?" Eugene laughed dryly. "That's because you didn't get along with him before. You didn't want to be a real couple with him, right?" Princess Xinyang said coldly, "I didn't say I wanted to start over with him." Eugene whispered, "Oh. Then, according to what you said, it's not too much for the Marquis to mess around outside." Princess Xinyang glared daggers at her. Eugene's hair stood on end. She hurriedly said, "But he definitely won't do that." Princess Xinyang closed her eyes. "Let's go," Eugene whispered. "Are we going back to the barracks?" Princess Xinyang said lightly, "Back to the capital." Eugene's expression changed. "Princess." Princess Xinyang leaned back against the cushion again and closed her eyes to rest. "I've made up my mind. No need to say more." "Yes." Eugene braced herself and agreed. What a pity. She was only one step away from seeing the Marquis. Why did something like this happen? The coachman turned around and went back. Eugene tried to persuade her several times, but Princess Xinyang was determined not to change her mind. It wasn't strange. It wasn't easy for the princess to put down her pride and come all the way to the border. Suddenly hearing such news, she couldn't help but want to retreat. "Marquis, oh Marquis, it's not that I don't want to help you. It's heaven's will." But just as the carriage was about to leave Lee County, something unexpected happened. When they went to the post station to change horses, they met the group of Dongyi people and took a fancy to the same horse. The Dongyi princess walked out of the carriage with a veil on her face. The young girl's body was slender and elegant. She exuded a youthful vigor from head to toe. She also had a pair of moving eyes. They were spirited and bright. No wonder she was the #1 beauty of Dongyi. Princess Xinyang wore a bamboo hat and a long veil. Only a faint outline of her face could be seen. Her face couldn't be seen clearly. Just like that, the two women met at the courier station. The Dongyi princess said arrogantly, "I want this horse. You can choose another one." Princess Xinyang said seriously, "Everything is first come, first served. I want it first. You can choose another horse." The Dongyi princess chuckled. "Does first come first get first served? I have plenty of silver. Whatever you pay, I'll pay double." Princess Xinyang's eyes were cold. "So what if you're rich? So what if you're young? Do you think I don't have silver? What does being young have to do with that?" This person's words are so strange. The Dongyi princess looked at her suspiciously. She stretched out her hand and snorted. "If you have silver, take it out." Eugene whispered to Princess Xinyang, "Princess, we're almost done with the investigation." The Dongyi princess said to the post station's deputy, "Return her silver. I'll buy the horse." "Yes. Yes." The deputy couldn't afford to offend Marquis Xianping's sweetheart. He hurried forward and returned the 2 ingots of silver to Eugene. Princess Xinyang's aura exploded. "You dare." The post-house officer shuddered in fear. The Dongyi princess said angrily, "Why are you so fierce? Do you know who I am?" Princess Xinyang said sarcastically, "I know. The Dongyi princess who threw herself at Marquis Xianping. You're just a small tribe. How dare you call yourself a princess? You overestimate yourself." "You." The Dongyi princess was angry. "I don't hit women. Kowtow to me and admit your mistake. Then I'll forgive you." Princess Xinyang said coldly, "It's more like you kowtow to me and admit your mistake." The Dongyi princess was so angry that she stomped her feet. "You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Guards, teach them a lesson." 8 Dongyi guards swarmed forward, surrounding Princess Xinyang and Eugene. The Dongyi princess smiled proudly. "Are you afraid? It's not too late to beg for mercy." Before she could finish her sentence, a muscular figure descended from the sky. No one saw how he moved. In the blink of an eye, the 8 Dongyi guards fell to the ground. The Dongyi princess looked at the guards on the ground in disbelief. "This is impossible. What kind of sorcery did you use? Everyone, attack." The remaining 12 people also rushed toward Princess Xinyang and her companions. But how could these people be Long Yi's opponent? Long Yi effortlessly beat them until they were looking for their teeth on the ground. Long Yi flashed in front of the Dongyi princess. The Dongyi princess looked at the masked man in horror. He was so fast that only an afterimage was left. She was so scared that she couldn't speak. Long Yi rolled his eyes, then raising his finger, he lightly flicked her forehead, causing her but to fall on the ground. Princess Xinyang walked toward her step by step, and looked at her condescendingly. Now, do you still want to snatch other people's things? The Dongyi princess wiped her tears and said angrily, Who are you? Why are you bullying me? Princess Xinyang looked at her sharply. I'm Princess Xinyang of Zhao Country, the wife of Marquis Xianping. So what if I bully you? As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly felt two gazes that couldn't be ignored fall on her. She subconsciously looked back and saw Marquis Xianping standing in an open space not far away, staring at her with a dumbfounded expression. Digression. This is 2 more words. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428226/1043317773. HTML Genius memorized this site's address. www.zhbqg.com Bkuj mobile reading website. Chapter 975. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. The Princess of Xinyang suddenly felt awkward. She had never thought that she would meet Xiao Ji in this kind of situation. What did she say just now? Did this guy hear me? The calm Princess of Xinyang's thoughts suddenly became chaotic. She stood there in a daze, like a silly peacock. Eugene had served her princess for many years, but this was the first time she had seen her so dazed. Not to mention the princess, she herself was also shocked silly. Shouldn't the Marquis be in the barracks? Why did he appear at the relay station in Li County? Could it be? Eugene glanced at the unruly princess, and her heart skipped a beat. If the Marquis had come to see this little princess, then the couple would have completely broken down today. The Dongyi princess also followed the Princess of Xinyang's gaze, and saw the person who had come. She instantly gained confidence and stood up from the ground. She patted the snow off her body and ran over to Xiao Ji like a light swallow. The Princess of Xinyang suddenly came back to her senses. She frowned as she watched her come to Xiao Ji's side and intimately hold Xiao Ji's arm. She even snorted coldly at her. The provoked Princess of Xinyang was about to explode. Her reason told her that as a princess, she had her own nobility and dignity. She disdained to be jealous of others. But this scene was really infuriating. She wasn't jealous, but her authority as a princess was being challenged. Yes, that was it. The daughter of a small barbarian clan dared to be so tyrannical in the territory of the Zhao country. This was intolerable. Seeing this scene, Eugene's eyes quickly widened. Marquis, do you want to die? You actually let a woman hold your arm in front of the princess? The Dongyi princess held on to Xiao Ji's arm and didn't let go. She even pointed at the Princess of Xinyang and complained. You came at the right time. She bullied me. Xiao Ji had already recovered from his shock. His handsome face regained its calmness. He nonchalantly said, Yes, I saw it. The little princess of Dongyi made a face at Princess Xinyang gloatingly, then complained to Xiao Ji. Also, she dared to lie that she's the princess of the capital. It's your wife. Don't you think it's funny? As she spoke, she withdrew her hand from Xiao Ji's arm. She put her hands on her hips and said to Princess Xinyang, The main character is here. Let's see how you can continue lying. Princess Xinyang didn't want to see these two people anymore. She turned her face away coldly. Xiao Ji glanced at her with a faint smile. His gaze seemed to penetrate the hazy veil and land on her face. He said to the little princess of Dongyi, "She is not lying. She is indeed my first wife." The last 4 words made Princess Xinyang clench her fists. The embarrassment that had been suppressed by her anger with great difficulty once again surfaced in her heart. This guy. How much did he hear? She clearly didn't mean that. She really is, but... The little princess of Dongyi looked at Princess Xinyang in disbelief, then at Xiao Ji. Isn't she the princess of the capital? Why did she come to the east? See, no one in the world would believe that Princess Xinyang and Xiao Ji had the slightest bit of love between husband and wife. Even if she came here looking for her husband, in the eyes of others, she had other motives. The little princess of Dongyi tugged at Xiao Ji's sleeve and asked in a small voice, "Did the emperor of Zhao country send her to spy on you?" Princess Xinyang clenched her fists. She wasn't deaf. Xiao Ji smiled. "Get on the carriage first." The little princess of Dongyi looked at Princess Xinyang, snorted, and turned to leave. Xiao Ji suddenly reminded her meaningfully, "Don't be too arrogant. There's nothing great about being young." The little princess of Dongyi frowned. She clearly didn't understand why Xiao Ji said the same thing as that woman. Princess Xinyang was even more embarrassed. She wished she hadn't said those words. "Yujin, let's go." With a cold face, she didn't look at Xiao Ji and walked past him. What no one knew was that the moment she brushed past him, her heart suddenly tensed up. It was a very strange feeling. She was probably afraid that he would try to stop her and say something that would embarrass her. In the end, he didn't. He was very well behaved. Princess Xinyang squeezed her handkerchief and walked out of the courier station without looking back. Xiao Ji also came out. The two stood at the entrance of the courier station. There was a carriage's distance between them. Princess Xinyang looked straight ahead. Xiao Ji's hands were stuffed in a fox fur handkerchief. He was tall and straight, like a pine tree or a bamboo tree. As long as this person didn't speak, he would be the most noble and elegant man in Zhao country. He turned to look at Princess Xinyang and said with a faint smile, "Get on." Princess Xinyang still didn't look at him. She said coldly, "I have my own carriage." Xiao Ji glanced at her carriage and said, "Are you sure?" Princess Xinyang didn't understand and frowned. She turned to look at her own carriage. Then she almost vomited blood from anger at the scene she saw. Long Yi's charcoal pencil had rolled under the wheel. In order to take it out, Long Yi had to take off the wheels of the carriage. Xiao Ji said calmly, "Or if you want to sit in Chongjing's carriage, that's fine." Coincidentally, at this time, Chongjing drove a majestic carriage over. Princess Xinyang didn't say anything and got on the carriage. As soon as she sat down, the curtain of the carriage was lifted. She thought it was Yujin, but when she looked carefully, it was actually Xiao Ji. Princess Xinyang's face darkened. "Don't you have your own carriage?" Xiao Ji's lips curled. "This is my carriage." Princess Xinyang coldly said, "Just now you said it was Chongjing's." Xiao Ji sat down beside her and lazily brushed his lower hem. He said, "It's also mine." Princess Xinyang didn't want to pay attention to him. The people of the relay station were used to seeing the wind. It didn't matter if she was a real princess or not. In short, since she was able to sit in the same carriage as Marquis Xianping, they couldn't afford to offend her. They hurriedly prepared a new carriage for Yujin. Long Yi didn't need a carriage. He could fly over eaves and vault over walls. The carriages at the border were majestic. The horses looked more murderous, but it didn't mean that the interior was luxurious. There wasn't even a charcoal brazier inside the carriage. The cold wind came in through the window that couldn't be closed. Princess Xinyang's hands and feet were ice cold. She raised her hand and tightened the cloak on her body. Xiao Ji handed her a warm hand warmer. "I don't want it," she said. Xiao Ji took back the hand warmer. There was no change in his mood. It was as if her coldness and refusal were normal for him. The carriage quieted down. Princess Xinyang was in a fit of anger. After walking for a while, she remembered that she hadn't said where she was going. She asked, "Where are we going?" "The military camp," Xiao Ji said. "I'm going back to the capital," Princess Xinyang said indifferently. Xiaoji leisurely leaned against the window behind him and looked at her with amusement. He asked, "What? Are you feeling wronged? Weren't you quite domineering when you were bullying people just now?" Princess Xinyang glared at him coldly. Xiaoji narrowed his eyes. "Qin Fengwan, can I understand your current behavior as you're jealous?" Princess Xinyang refuted without hesitation. "I'm not. Who would be jealous of you? What does it have to do with me who you marry and who you provoke outside?" Xiaoji raised his eyebrows. "Oh." Princess Xinyang turned her face away with a cold expression. After that, neither of them spoke. The carriage was so quiet that only the whistling of the cold wind could be heard. Xiaoji was thinner than when he was in the capital, and his lips were also a bit pale. The memorial sent back to the capital didn't mention how difficult the battle was, but since it had reached the stage of peace negotiations, Princess Xinyang knew that the soldiers at the border must have experienced a terrifying consumption of energy and the flames of war. Xiaoji must be injured. Halfway through their journey, snow started falling. Princess Xinyang was worried about Yujin, and lifted the curtain to look back. Not only did she see Yujin's carriage, but she also saw the little princess of Dongyi. She swallowed the words, "Are you injured?" that were on the tip of her tongue. The heavy snow slowed down their speed, and the 2-hour journey lasted until the sky turned dark. The carriages stopped at the entrance of the military camp. Changjing jumped off the carriage. "We're here." Xiaoji looked at Princess Xinyang as if waiting for her to get off the carriage first. Princess Xinyang didn't move. "You get off first." Xiaoji glanced at her. He took off his cloak and covered her with it. "I don't." Before she could finish her words, Xiaoji suddenly leaned over and wrapped his arms around her, carrying her in his arms. Her entire body stiffened. Xiaoji said, "Changjing, go get some hot water." "Oh." Changjing obediently went. Xiaoji covered her tightly with his cloak, not even exposing her feet. But the moment he carried her up, she still saw the big hole in the car window with her sharp eyes. Earlier, he had been leaning against the window. Was he using his back to block the hole? After getting off the carriage, the cold wind poured in. He lowered his chin and closed the gap in the cloak. Her face was covered by the cloak. She leaned against a firm chest that was beating like a drum. His clothes were cold, but his breath was hot. It seeped through the layers of clothes and slowly spread to her face. The soldiers in the military camp saw Marquis Xianping carrying someone back. They were all stunned. "Who is the Marquis carrying? The little princess of Dongyi?" a soldier asked. Another soldier said, "It's probably her. Other than her, no one can get close to the Marquis these days." Princess Xinyang's heart was drenched with cold water. She raised her frozen arm and pushed him. "Put me down." Xiaoji didn't put her down. Instead, he carried her into his own tent. It was hard at the border. The tents were much simpler than those in the capital. Xiaoji never burned charcoal. He saved it for the wounded soldiers. Changjing came with hot water. "Go out," Xiaoji said to Changjing. "Oh." Changjing resigned herself to fate and went out. Xiaoji placed her on his bed. He knelt on one knee and lifted her skirt. Her expression changed. "Xiaoji, what are you doing?" Xiaoji quickly took off her shoes and footwear. He was very strong. She was also frozen to the point that she couldn't feel anything. She had no strength to resist. Her fear of this man instantly welled up in her heart, and her face turned pale. Xiaoji brought the wooden bucket over and rolled up her trousers. He then tested the temperature of the water with his hands before putting her frozen feet into the bucket. After doing this, he looked up. His gaze landed on Princess Xinyang's gradually recovering face. His expression was subtle. "Qin Fengwan, what did you think I was going to do to you?" Princess Xinyang lowered her eyes. "Nothing." Marquis Xianping sneered. "There's no use thinking about it. I'm not that easy to get a man." Princess Xinyang. A moment later, she calmed down and sneered as well. "That's right. You only have your little princess of Dongyi in your heart." Marquis Xianping got up to take a towel and sat down beside her. "Tisk, you're so jealous." Princess Xinyang was just about to open her mouth to refute when she saw him bend down and take her wet leg out of the cooling hot water. He placed it on a clean towel and also placed it on his leg. You. Princess Xinyang's eyes trembled, and she hurriedly tried to retract her legs. Don't move. He pressed down on her pampered feet. She was a princess, so she didn't have to bind her feet like the poor girls of the common folk. But her feet were delicate, and in his rough and scarred hands, there was a cruel beauty that didn't fit in with them. You've got frostbite, he said. The medicine is under your pillow. Princess Xinyang took out the frostbite ointment. I'll do it myself. The peace talks are real. I came up with the idea. Xiaoji suddenly brought up the topic. But Zhen and I don't have the kind of relationship you think. Princess Xinyang quickly realized that Zhen was the name of the little princess of Dongyi. She pulled the towel over with a cold face. Xiaoji said, Zhen is my younger brother's daughter, my niece. Princess Xinyang was stunned. Isn't she the little princess of the king of Dongyi? Xiaoji looked at her and said, her mother is indeed from Dongyi, but her father isn't the king of Dongyi. It's Xiaoming. The king of Dongyi accidentally found out about her background and temporarily adopted her as his adopted daughter. He sent her here to negotiate peace with our army. Speaking up to this point, his lips curled up. Qin Fengwan, are you still jealous? The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428226/1043137006. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 976. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all here. Little Princess. The Imperial Guard's voice came from outside the tent. Get out of the way. I want to see the marquis. The little princess of Dongyi said unruly and willfully. Princess Xinyang looked at Xiaoji. Xiaoji took the towel and medicine from her hand, and unhurriedly wiped off the water droplets, and began to apply the medicine again. Zheng. Princess Xinyang opened her mouth and said, she wants to come in. She can't come in, Xiaoji indifferently said. She dipped her fingertips in the medicine, and evenly applied it to her frostbite. This kind of medicine was very effective. The only flaw was that the color was not good and it was very sticky. It was not easy to wash it off. Princess Xinyang's fingertips were delicate and she loved to be clean. If she really washed it, she would definitely lose a layer of skin. Soon the little princess of Dongyi stamped her feet and shouted, You dare to stop me? I think you're tired of living. In a moment, when the marquis comes out, I'll let him deal with you. Princess Xinyang secretly looked at Xiaoji. Xiaoji seriously applied the medicine, but seemed to feel her doubts and sizing him up. He indifferently said, The military camp has its rules. The general's tent is not to be casually entered. He didn't spoil the little princess of Dongyi. Otherwise, his imperial guards wouldn't have the guts to stop her outside. But other people didn't know this. Seeing that he was quite tolerant of the little princess of Dongyi, they secretly had some guesses. Only you and Changjing came in, Xiaoji said. Just as she finished speaking, Long Yi entered the room. Imperial guards. Imperial guards couldn't stop him. The medicine had already been applied. Xiaoji pulled the quilt over her feet and said to Long Yi, Are you hungry? Long Yi said, And I'm hungry. Xiaoji said to her, I'll take Long Yi to eat something. What do you want to eat? Princess Xinyang asked. What do you have here? Xiaoji laughed self-deprecatingly. That's right, what's there in the military? There was a snowstorm in the east, and the supplies couldn't be delivered smoothly. It was already good enough that they could eat their fill. How could they be picky? He said, Take a rest first. I'll bring it to you later. Marquis, Why are you going out so late at night? At the door, the guard looked strangely at Marquis Xianping, who was holding a bow and arrow and riding a tall horse. He did not understand why Marquis Xianping was dressed in martial attire in the middle of the night. Could it be a night raid on the enemy camp? But why was he alone? Spying on military intelligence? Then why did he bring a bow and arrows? Xiao Ji tightened his grip on the reins and said faintly, "Yes, I'm going out for a bit. No one is allowed to come within 100 steps of the barracks. Those who fail to dissuade them will be killed without mercy." "Yes." The guard cupped his hands and replied solemnly. Xiao Ji spurred his horse and disappeared in the flying snow. He was not going to spy on military intelligence, nor was he going to raid the enemy camp at night. Instead, he rode his horse into an old forest deep in the mountains and hunted a wild deer. At night, there was a steaming bowl of venison soup and steaming buns on Princess Xinyang's table. A few years ago, Princess Xinyang had started eating vegetarian food. After she became pregnant with Yi, she resumed eating a diet of meat and vegetables to supplement her nutrition. Yi had been weaned at 1 year old, so she stopped eating meat after she stopped feeding Yi. But in this bitter cold place, drinking more venison soup and eating more meat could better resist the cold. Princess Xinyang also understood this point. She silently picked up her bowl and chopsticks and began to eat. Thinking of something, she looked at Xiao Ji, who was sitting to the side and wiping his weapon. She asked, "You're not eating?" "I've already eaten," Xiao Ji said. After a few mouthfuls of venison soup, Princess Xinyang felt her entire body warm up. Her forehead was covered in a thin layer of sweat, and the tip of her nose was glistening. "How is it over here?" she asked. Xiao Ji wiped his long sword with a cloth and said lightly, "The war is almost over." "What about Xiao Ming and the others?" she continued. She clearly was not asking about Xiao Ming alone when she used them. Marquis Xianping had 2 concubine-born sons. At the time, Princess Xinyang did not want to be his wife. The old madam could not bear to see him in the family line, so she put 2 concubines in his room. Later there were Xiao En and Xiao Zhe. Although they were concubine-born, the old madam, who could not hope for a legitimate son, doted on them and raised them. In the past, their relationship as husband and wife was as cold as an icehouse. Princess Xinyang did not care about her concubine-born sons, nor did she care about them. Later, the old madam's health deteriorated. Xiao En and Xiao Zhe went to the military camp. A few years later, they came to the east, so they had even less contact with Princess Xinyang. Xiao Ji said, "Xiao Ming was poisoned and is unconscious. The antidote is in the hands of the eastern barbarians. Xiao En and Xiao Zhe are guarding Donglin Pass." Princess Xinyang nodded. After muttering to herself for a moment, she said, "I always thought that Xiao Ming was only injured." Xiao Ji indifferently said, "The eastern barbarians are very cunning." At first glance, there was no abnormality. Half a month later, signs of poisoning gradually appeared. Princess Xinyang asked, "Did you agree to make peace with the eastern barbarians because of Xiao Ming's antidote?" Xiao Ji stopped wiping his sword. "The Xiao family has never been threatened. Xiao Ming can die, but the backbone of the Zhao country's generals and soldiers cannot bend." Princess Xinyang felt the morale of a powerful army from his body. Her eyes moved and she asked, "Then why are you still delaying the troops?" Xiao Ji looked at the sword that was polished to its full potential. A cold light reflected in his pair of long and narrow phoenix eyes, making the bottom of his eyes pass through a layer of cold light. "Tomorrow, I am going to attack the eastern barbarians. You stay in the military camp and don't run around. Let Longyi go with you." "No need." Xiao Ji put his sword back into its scabbard. Seeing that she had finished eating, he took the bowl and chopsticks out. Princess Xinyang looked at the simple and crude tent. Marquis Xianping could be said to have grown up in luxury. It was hard to imagine that he had suffered so much at the border. There were a few small holes in the tent. Fragments of moonlight and cold wind fell together. Suddenly, something covered those holes. Xiao Ji had repaired the tent. Princess Xinyang sat on the hard bed and listened to the voices of Xiao Ji and the soldiers talking outside. "Next time, don't do this again. It's very dangerous." If by any chance you fall into a trap set by the Eastern barbarians, it would be troublesome. Princess Xinyang looked at the piece of roasted venison that Xiao Ji had left on the table for her. Who is that person? The soldier asked again. My wife, Xiao Ji said. After that, the soldier didn't prattle again. Xiao Ji finished repairing the tent and returned to the military camp. Princess Xinyang asked with a normal expression, Where did Long Yi go? Xiao Ji answered, He went to Changjing's tent. It's next door. Tonight you'll sleep here. Then you. Of course I'll sleep here too. Princess Xinyang's eyelashes trembled slightly. Her lips moved a few times, but in the end, she didn't say anything about not letting him sleep with her. The military camp had limited supplies. The bed was cold and hard, and the quilt was thin and damp. Princess Xinyang's entire body was stiff as she lay beside him. Her hands and feet were ice cold. The atmosphere in the military camp was different from that in the capital. He was less frivolous and unruly, and more serious and fierce, like a general on the battlefield. For example, right now he was teasing her. He closed his eyes and planned tomorrow's deployment in his mind. Xiao Ji, Princess Xinyang said in a low voice. What's wrong? He pulled himself out of his thoughts of battle in time. Princess Xinyang's Adam's apple moved. She nervously pinched her fingers and whispered. I'm cold. If it was in the past, he would definitely say to her, Qin Fengwan, if you want me to hug you, just say it. But he didn't. He only held her hand under the quilt, and found that she was very cold. He moved the quilt on his side closer to her. Are you feeling better now? I'm still cold, Princess Xinyang said. In the darkness, he hesitated for a moment before reaching out his strong arms and pulling her into his embrace. His unique masculine scent hit her in the face and enveloped her in an instant. He unbuttoned his shirt, allowing her ice-cold hands to touch his warm chest. He then shifted his legs, placing her ice-cold feet on his warm long thighs. Are you feeling better now? He asked. Princess Xinyang's cheeks were a bit hot. She thought that this man might be too hot-tempered. She nodded and answered very weakly. Qin Fengwan, don't move. I'm not moving. Your feet. The places with frostbite are so itchy. She couldn't help but rub against his calf. But this isn't called moving, right? She reached her hand down, wanting to scratch it, but when her hand slid down, she accidentally touched a terrifying beast. She was so shocked that her face flushed red. Xiao Ji's voice was a bit hoarse. I told you not to move. She choked and said angrily, I didn't touch you here. Xiao Ji stared deeply at her in the darkness and asked in a hoarse voice, Qin Fengwan, have you recovered from your illness? Princess Xinyang froze. Her illness? Her illness of not being able to touch men. At this moment, she was being held in a man's arms without any gap. Her illness didn't flare up. No, it seemed like her illness did flare up. Her heart was beating very fast. Thumping, thumping, as if she had barged into a little deer that kept bumping around. Her mind was buzzing, her mouth was dry, and she couldn't breathe. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1043075514. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 977. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. Although Princess Xinyang was already a mother, she wasn't as experienced as Gu Jiao when it came to relationships. In any case, Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng had been in the same boat through thick and thin for 4 to 5 years, seeing each other day and night and being intimate with each other. She was practically a blank in this aspect. In the past, she couldn't like any man, so she didn't understand what it felt like to be in a relationship between a man and a woman. Xiaoji looked at her tense body through the inky night. Qin Fengwan, are you having a relapse again? Princess Xinyang clutched her thumping heart. She felt that her heart was about to jump out of her throat. The closer he got to her and the more he talked to her, the more she acted like this. Is this a relapse? Why does it seem more serious than before? Her heart was burning with panic. Xiaoji's eyes darkened. He let go of her arm and pulled away from her. Princess Xinyang instinctively said, "Don't touch me. Go away." Xiaoji's mind flashed with the words she would say to him every time he got close to her. In the end, he withdrew his fingers from her waist. The hot-bloodedness in his body gradually cooled down, and his entire person returned to the loneliness and coldness he had before the war. Princess Xinyang felt his avoidance. Just like on their wedding night, when she pressed the dagger against his chest and said those hurtful words to him, he did the same. Did he think she wanted him to go away? That's not it. She took a deep breath and decided to finish her sentence. "Don't, Marquis." A guard's voice suddenly sounded outside the tent. Xiaoji's eyes turned cold. He sat up and lifted the quilt quickly and lightly, almost not letting the cold wind in. He pressed the quilt down and closed the gap between her and the quilt. He walked out of the tent in thin clothes and asked in a low voice, "What's wrong?" "Urgent news from the front lines. The situation has changed. The Eastern barbarians." When Princess Xinyang heard this, the guards lowered their voices, probably because of Xiaoji's instructions. She couldn't hear the rest clearly. After a while, Xiaoji turned around and returned to the tent. He began to put on his clothes and tie up his hair. Princess Xinyang's heart tightened. She stood up and asked, "Is there going to be a war?" "Let's go to the front line." Xiaoji tightened his belt and picked up the armor on the shelf to put it on. His movements were swift and clean, and every sound he made was filled with a valiant killing intent. Whenever he was in front of her, he would always put on an air of elegance and nobility. This was the first time she had watched him go to war. What should a wife do? Should he put on armor for him, or should he send him off? Princess Xinyang looked at the shining armor on the shelf and moved her fingers. He turned around. She quickly retracted her hand back into the quilt. "You light the lamp." Xiaoji took the cold helmet and put it on. "I can see." Outside the tent, the sound of the cavalry gathering could be heard. It was obvious that the situation was urgent. Xiaoji dressed neatly and grabbed the long sword on the shelf. He said to Princess Xinyang, "I'll call Yujin over. If there's nothing important, don't leave the camp." After saying this, he quickly left the tent. Princess Xinyang's words for him to take care of himself had already risen to her throat, but she couldn't say a single word. The tent's cloth flapped in the cold wind. The heat in the quilt quickly dissipated as he left. In an instant, the tent was as cold as an ice cellar. "Move out!" His stern and dignified voice echoed in the cold wind. 500 cavalry braved the wind and snow, fearlessly rushing to the last line of defense in the east of the Zhao country, Donglin Pass. "Princess." Yujin lifted the curtain and entered the tent. She first took out a match and lit the oil lamp on the table. Then she came to the bedside and saw Princess Xinyang staring blankly at the door. Her heart ached as she helped her lie down. "Don't catch a cold." He left. Princess Xinyang said in a daze. Yujin took off her cloak. She had only walked a few steps, but her whole body was already covered in snow. Marquis and others had rushed through the snow, so she didn't know how cold they would be. She hung up her cloak and sat down on the bedside, tucking in the quilt for Princess Xinyang. She softly comforted her. "Marquis has experienced hundreds of battles. He will definitely return safely." Princess Xinyang whispered, "I hope so." Xiaoji left for several days. Princess Xinyang didn't reveal her identity. Dongyi Little Princess probably had received instructions from Xiaoji, so she also didn't reveal who she was. Moreover, Dongyi Little Princess's attitude towards her was a lot more respectful. Xiaoji should have specially warned her before leaving. She was the first woman to live in Xiaoji's tent. None of the guards in the camp dared to be disrespectful to her. Even if there were, they were no match for Long Yi. Xiaoming lived in this camp. Princess Xinyang went to see him every day. She had never cared about him or anyone around him before. She was also not familiar with his only younger brother Xiaoming. The relationship between them was said to be pretty good. But specifically how they got along, she really didn't have any impression in this regard. She knew too little about him. You came. In Xiaoming's tent, Dongyi little princess turned around and looked at Princess Xinyang. Princess Xinyang walked over. Her gaze fell on that face which was somewhat similar to Xiao Ji's face, and said, "How is your father today? Did he wake up?" Dongyi little princess shook her head. No. After getting along with her for several days, Princess Xinyang found that her heart was not bad. Those unruly ways were merely her way of surviving here. Her situation was very awkward. She was Xiaoming's daughter, but Xiaoming hadn't officially recognized her. Xiao Ji couldn't make this decision for his younger brother, so he hadn't officially announced her identity to the public. She was a Dongyi who had come to negotiate peace. If she wasn't a bit domineering, she would be easily bullied. Princess Xinyang asked, "Your mother?" Dongyi little princess laughed self-deprecatingly and said, "My mother died a long time ago. I was raised by my aunt. Later, my uncle brought a man back. That man realized that I looked like someone, so he asked who my parents were. I don't know how he investigated, but he found out that I was the flesh and blood of your Zhao Kingdom's great general Wei Yuan. My aunt sold me to that man, and he took me to see the king of Dongyi. The king of Dongyi used me to trick your great general Wei Yuan out. He was poisoned to save me. The funny thing is that the king of Dongyi dared to send me here to negotiate peace." Princess Xinyang said, "The king of Dongyi hopes that Xiao Ji will kill you to avenge his brother, and at the same time drive a wedge between him and Xiaoming. But Xiao Ji isn't that kind of person." Dongyi little princess felt that there was nothing to say about her topic. She looked at Princess Xinyang. "It's rumored that your relationship with the Marquis isn't good, but it doesn't seem like it. You come here every day to ask about military reports." Princess Xinyang's thoughts were exposed, and she felt embarrassed. "I'm the princess of Zhao Kingdom. It's natural for me to ask about military matters." Dongyi little princess's gossipy nature burned brightly. "So you're here on imperial orders? You're really sent by the emperor to spy on Marquis Xianping? Did this girl know how to talk? Had her relationship with Xiao Ji been so bad that the Dongyi people knew about it?" Princess Xinyang was a little angry. Donglin Pass sent news of the battle almost every day. The Dongyi people had captured the Zhao Kingdom's generals and lured the Zhao Kingdom's army into the forest. They were good at fighting in the forest, and with the advantage of the terrain, they made the Zhao Kingdom's army suffer. Xiao Ji took an unconventional approach. He didn't fight with them, but took Chongjing directly into the Dongyi army's lair and killed the great general of Dongyi. Until the 10th day, Donglin Pass sent all kinds of good news. But on the morning of the 11th day, bad news enveloped the entire camp. Xiao Ji was unfortunately shot by a stray arrow while covering the wounded soldiers on their way back to the camp. It was unknown whether he was alive or dead. A chill rose from the soles of her feet. Princess Xinyang felt as if she had fallen into an ice house. Eugene looked at her worriedly. "Princess, perhaps there was a mistake in the military intelligence. Don't worry, I'll send someone to inquire." "Princess, what are you doing?" Princess Xinyang left the tent. She went straight to the stable and picked a high-quality horse. When Eugene rushed over, she had already mounted the horse. Eugene grabbed the reins and looked at her in horror. "Princess, Marquis told you to wait for him in the camp. Don't be impulsive." Princess Xinyang wasn't an impulsive person. Even when old Liang Wangfei came to her with selfish and disgusting intentions, she didn't throw her out regardless of the consequences. But at this moment, she couldn't control herself from looking for him. She thought that she had found the answer Eugene wanted her to find. But he still didn't know her answer. She wanted to tell him. Princess Xinyang's horse disappeared into the vast expanse of white heaven and earth. Long Yi chased after it like a shadow. The two arrived at Donglin Pass. After arriving at Donglin Pass, Eugene's guess was confirmed. The person who was hit by a stray arrow was indeed not Marquis Xianping Xiaoji. But Changjing's injury wasn't heavy. Her skin was only scraped. Moreover, she fell into the snow pit in the forest with Marquis Xianping. Where's Marquis Xianping? In the wounded barracks, Princess Xinyang asked Changjing. Changjing sadly said, I don't know. After falling into the snow pit, I fainted. When I woke up, he had already carried me back to the wounded barracks. Princess Xinyang called the guard Zhang Hu and revealed her identity to him. Take me to the scene. Yes. Zhang Hu cupped his fist and answered. A group of people arrived at the forest where Marquis Xianping and Changjing had an accident. Strictly speaking, this place wasn't the territory of the Dongyi people. The terrain here was too complicated. Even the Dongyi people who were good at jungle warfare didn't dare to wander around here. Zhang Hu said, Princess, it's dangerous ahead. This little one will go and take a look. Princess Xinyang indifferently said, No need. The group of people followed the footprints in the snow and searched forward. When they arrived at a call, Long Yi suddenly crouched down and used his hand to pull out a token. It was the token of Marquis Xianping's mansion. Long Yi continued to dig down and dug out a small hole. He buried his head in the hole and looked all around. Then he opened his mouth and shouted, Wu, wah. Long Yi, did you find anything? Princess Xinyang walked over and asked. Long Yi pulled his head out of the hole and said to her, There's someone down there. They're injured and their breathing is very weak. As he spoke, he gave the token to Princess Xinyang. Princess Xinyang recognized what it was. Her eyes lit up and she said, It's Xiaoji's personal item. The person down there. Could it be Xiaoji? I can't go down. Long Yi said. Zhang Hu also walked over. He knelt down in front of Long Yi and carefully observed the hole. His expression suddenly became serious. He said to the nearby soldiers holding shovels who were walking over, Don't come over. Everyone hastily stopped their steps. Zhang Hu nervously said, The rocks above this hole are not firm. They may crack at any time. If the person down there is really Marquis, then he may be crushed to death by the collapsing rocks. Princess Xinyang looked at the very narrow hole. She didn't understand how a big living person could fall down. Can you make the hole a bit bigger? She asked. Zhang Hu shook his head. No, it will collapse if you make it bigger. The only way is to see if there is another way out. Let Marquis go out from that way. Princess Xinyang clenched her fingers. What if there is no other way out? Zhang Hu said. Or Marquis himself will rush out from this hole. Princess Xinyang frowned and said. But Long Yi said his breathing is very weak. How can he come out by himself? Zhang Hu said in a low voice. Then wait for Marquis to recover. Princess Xinyang angrily said. He is cold and hungry down there. How can he recover? He will freeze to death in one day. Zhang Hu also felt wronged. It's not that he didn't want to save Marquis, but the situation was really difficult. Long Yi once again buried his head deep into the hole and stuck out his tongue. Lu, he couldn't go down. His neck was stuck. Zhang Hu was thinner than him, but he couldn't go down either. He found the smallest soldier, but he was still a few sizes too big. All of you get out of the way, Princess Xinyang said. Everyone was stunned. Princess Xinyang slowly and carefully walked to the hole. She bent down and tried, but her shoulders couldn't go in. There was just a little bit more. Zhang Hu saw that she wanted to go down by herself, and his expression changed. Princess, you can't. It's very dangerous. Besides, we can't be sure that person is Marquis. You must not put yourself in danger. She straightened up and said calmly, Turn around. Everyone was even more confused. Princess Xinyang raised her hand and began to take off her clothes. Zhang Hu hurriedly covered his eyes and turned around. He ordered, Turn around. Close your eyes. The princess of the imperial family, who didn't even take off her veil in front of others, took off her clothes one by one behind the hundreds of soldiers. When she was only left with a thin undergarment, her delicate body was almost blown away by the biting cold wind. She was shivering from the cold. Her teeth were chattering, and she kept shivering. However, she didn't shrink back. She looked at the dark hole, closed her eyes, and jumped down. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, Please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/10429272. HTML Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.